I just don't know, and I hate to give you all that answer, but if you all have details you want to share with me, we can elaborate from there. But as far as I'm aware, Trump hasn't aligned his strategic position. The Ukrainians have, and the Russians have, and those are not going to work together. So, what are you going to do, Trump?
All right, Nina.
Yeah, I think that Trump just wants to be the guy. I don't think he has any idea what he's talking about. He has been very much proven to be completely politically inept. He has no idea what he talks about when he talks about stuff. And to move on from that to actual political something of value, the fact that couldn't get Vladimir Putin to come to the talks in Turkey really proves that he doesn't respect him clearly at all. Like, he doesn't give a shit about, like, he thinks like, oh, I'm the deal guy, but I can't even get this guy to come to the political talks that are happening in Turkey here while I'm doing my big beautiful going around the Middle East tour. Like, he's completely inept, absolutely useless. Zelensky is I sim for him all the time because of, obviously, the man knows if he loses he dies. That's not the same when it comes to Putin. And the fact that Zelensky is playing all facets of this, he himself is also an entertainer. He knows how to make Trump entertained and bring him to the table. Like, I think that he is a vastly more competent political agent for his country than Trump is. I think Trump is an absolute fucking embarrassment. He is useless, and he just, like, again, has spent 25% of his I think it might have gone down to 23% of his presidency golfing. He's not there. He's doing nothing. He's useless.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Grid.
I don't know. I mean, I'm at an intersection on this one because on the one hand, I think Ukraine has fucked themselves, and we should never have given them as much money as we have. I don't even know why we're involved in the peace talks at all, other than I guess we swing the biggest dick in the neighborhood. And other than that, who cares? I think Trump is I think Trump's probably a better person to do the deal than anybody else currently in existence on the planet, except possibly for myself. And I'm busy. So let's get into it.
All right.
Prove you're unserious.
I literally just got here, lady.
I mean,
so did I.
We'll go to you, Tiberius. What do you think? You seem to have some criticism. Do you agree that with Grid's assessment that Trump's the best person to do this deal? Like, because it doesn't seem like you would agree with that, but I think you do agree that we're the biggest dick in the neighborhood.
Biggest dick in the neighborhood to a point. The reality is that my assessment is this war only happened for one reason. We won't actually flex our dick. We won't actually say, no, we're going to put an armor division in Kiev and, Russia, if you want to come at us, go for it. That's why this war got kicked off, is that we won't actually put our money where our mouths are. And the Russians are calling our bluff, is really what's going on.
In fairness, the last time we did that, the rubber tore and the Vietnam War happened.
I would actually argue that it was Afghanistan, but
sure, we could go with that one too.
Yeah.
So I agree with you that we're doing appeasement, right? Like, I assume you're more referring to like the 2014 like annexation of Crimea. Like, we didn't actually draw a red line.
Well, we keep doing the same thing, and now the Russians have been doing it too, where we all keep drawing red lines, and then we go past them, and then nothing happens, right?
Right, exactly.
So,
yeah,
like the Russians gassing people in Syria, which has still not been technically proven, as far as I'm aware.
What do you mean? Are you talking about
the Syrian air base in 2017 that Trump tomahawked the fuck out of? It was based on. Yeah, it was based upon intelligence that the Russians were actually trying to gas Syrian nationals. We never got that proven, but that's why we threw 60 Tomahawk missiles at them, just in case they actually were.
Well, just to be clear, it was also because they attacked one of our military bases.
Yeah, they.
Okay, I think that's getting a little in the weeds here.
Yeah,
we are getting a little in the weeds. But go ahead.
Yeah, foreign policy is kind of a B for me, so yeah, I can get in the weeds pretty easily. Long story short, is Trump the best guy to do it? Perspective. On one hand, he's had some pretty favorable dealings with the Russians going back 30 years. So if you wanted somebody to make a deal with the Russians,
you mean business dealings?
lots of dealings. I'm not going to go down that whole
Wait,
road.
would that not be a detriment?
Potentially. It depends on how you look at this, because this is
Well,
one of those
wait.
politics, right?
If you're gonna do politics, it's not about
Uh-huh.
making a business deal. Like it shouldn't. Like politics are for the gain of. You're not working for yourself. You're working for your country, right? So like, it's a completely different dynamic, right? Though you would agree with that?
I would not agree with that, because if you're
What?
looking at, I wouldn't, because if you're looking at this from a particular dynamic that Trump does, and I kind of agree with him on this one, is that Trump was there originally to embetter the institution of Trump Inc., right? And that's not just him; it's family members, it's people who work for him, all that. And now he's kind of doing the same as a representative of the United States federal government. Just to be on the same page with you, I don't.
But we're
like
not
this
his
guy.
family.
We're not, and there's a level where does he actually give a shit about us? I personally don't believe he does, but there's
Right.
something that he is going to be trying to get after, because you can't be a wondrous and successful president revered by at least the people who support you if you're a cataclysmic failure, at least in my opinion. And
That is not true.
okay,
Well, I think
I
think
There's been plenty of presidents in our
Trump will find a way
history that have absolutely been used. Sorry, go ahead.
sure.
Trump will try to paint any minor concession on anything as a win. It doesn't. I don't think his base will care. There might be some independents that flip one way or the other, but his base is absolutely not going to care about what actual concessions he gets out of Russia or anything.
Yeah, the only thing I've
Well,
actually seen his
hold on,
base
hold on.
push. Go ahead.
Let me just, I guess I'll play the MAGA guy since I don't have
Sure.
a pure MAGA representative. I mean, Grid, you don't call yourself a pure MAGA either,
I'm,
right?
I'm a Trump supporter. I don't know that I'm MAGA per se.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I'll play
Sure.
MAGA for a second, just for the argument. The argument, though, like, right, I guess there's two arguments. One, to like Tiberius' point,
Mhm.
would be, yeah, he's had this dealings, so he might be in a position to be able to get a better deal or exert pressure on him from a different angle that otherwise might not. The other thing I would say is that, yeah, People might paint any concession, but okay, like it depends on what you're calling like a concession, right? So if we look at like the China talk, right, that we're just having, which we'll get into a little bit more, I think, in the next portion of this, I would say that he succeeded quite a bit in making things better.
So you know what he did is he just brought it back to normal. Before he fucked them and then they
Well,
fucked us,
well,
and
we
then
can
he
go
brought
back.
it back to
Yeah,
before
I
he.
don't-
I don't. I don't
He
want to
intentionally fucked us.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever
And
did.
it's also for like 60 days, right? Like or 90,
hold on.
69,
90
I
days,
think
90 days. But
Yeah, 90 days.
we'll get into that more in the next.
He
this
didn't do
frame.
anything.
Well, yeah, okay, I'll set it up and we can, you can argue that one in a second. But just let me
Go ahead.
I'll
go
go
ahead.
to you, Grid, just real quick. I was gonna say the other thing is it depends on what you're framing as victories, like, right? Like if he's able to get them to the table and accomplish something where he actually
He
forces
hasn't
them
done it.
around. Well, I mean, okay, you don't think that he's taking steps to do that? Like
I don't
compared
give a
to
shit how many steps he's taken. If he has been failing at every single step of it, it's completely useless. He's not even coming. They're doing peace talks in Turkey with Ukraine, and Putin's not even
Russians
coming.
did show.
Well,
I'll put it in this regard. Talks are talks, but whenever the guy that you're supposed to actually meet up with doesn't show up to the talks, yeah, this is something that doesn't make
It's
Trump look right.
worthless. Yeah.
Well, I got to be honest. I don't know. Again, I keep.
Sure.
Why are we involved at all anyway? We should not be involved in the peace process. We provided Ukraine weaponry against
Well,
the
wouldn't that be a
Russians.
reason why?
Stop.
we
I let
involved?
you. I let you babble. It's okay.
Okay, go
Calm
ahead.
down.
Sorry.
We provided them with weapons. Why would the Russians believe jack shit we had to say at all? I mean, this is and
Wait, what do you mean believe?
why would they think that we're an impartial
We're gonna need
party
that,
to
Anthony.
mediate when we literally supplied their opposition with weapons and
That's
we
a
gave
fair
them
point.
a fuck ton of money?
We're not supposed to be impartial. We're supposed to lobby on behalf of Ukraine because they're a smaller
Eh,
country.
why-
This is
why are
what-
we-
this is
Correct.
what
why are we
MAGA
supposed to
people
do
told
that?
me. There are
Correct.
MAGA
Because
people who have told me Trump
Because
is
they
going to
are
go
an
to Putin and
ally.
say,
They
"If you
literally
don't
give
sign this
up-
deal."
Wait, they're an
let's go to
ally?
Nina, and then we'll go to Nina. and
Yeah, hold
Tiberius,
on.
and then
They're
back to you.
literally our ally. So no, he's absolutely right that like we are not supposed to be impartial. We are supposed to advocate for our ally, but that doesn't mean that we can't bring people to the table. You can absolutely bring people to the table while being in opposition to them. Like that's just kind of normal diplomacy.
Tiberius?
Yeah.
And then we'll go back to
So
Grid.
I'm not going to put us in the situation that we are a Ukrainian ally.
I'm
We
curious about
are.
Yeah, hold
You're
on.
not.
Let me finish, guys. I'm not going to put us in the camp that the Ukrainians are our allies. As far as I'm concerned, the only allies the United States actually has is the Australians and the Brits, and everybody else can fucking pound sand.
You can
When
just
it comes
ignore
to what we're
Flawless.
dealing with here, is that it's not about Ukraine being our friend; it's about the Russians being our enemy. Now, granted, I came up this with my bias from the start, but most people in Washington, up until the better part of the last few years, universally agreed with me. The Russians are not our friends. They don't embody
were
anything that we like.
objectively wrong about the Ukrainians not being our allies
Well, okay, give me an example
what-
of why they're our allies.
because
Well,
the
you
State
would at least
Department
say, like, a
classifies them as
geopolitical
our
sense.
allies.
I can only listen to one.
Yeah.
Wait, what
Say
are
that
go
again,
ahead,
Nina.
Nina.
The State Department classifies them as our allies. What do you mean? We have like
that's meaningless
treaties and
in the
shit. What
in
do
the
you mean?
global. in the
Oh,
global
okay. Yeah,
landscape.
it doesn't mean anything. Got it.
It is
Go
meaningless.
ahead.
Nobody gives a shit. Who are he? Literally just
This
defined our
administration doesn't give a
allies.
shit. You're
The only people that we can count on if shit goes to shit is
You know
maybe the
that there's
Australians. I don't
legal
honestly count on the fucking British. Like we're in this. Maybe
Well,
the
Okay,
Australians.
so
maybe.
allies are whatever you think it is. Got it.
Hold on.
Well, allies is a
Yeah,
very
number one,
specific
Mhm.
thing, and
Correct.
Ukraine is not an ally in any stretch.
No, it is legally our ally.
Well, okay.
I'm gonna. That's where I'll take
Right.
issue.
Go ahead. We'll go to you after. We're going to
yeah.
knock out after you, Tiberius. Go ahead.
Sure. So I will totally get into the idea that the Ukrainians are looking to join basically the American world order, right? They want democracy, they want some level of independent rights and the whole 9 yards that the Germans have and the Poles have and basically all of Eastern Europe has gained in the last 30 years. Completely admirable thing. I'm 100% on board with this. On the other side of that, they're not a legal member of any kind of defensive agreement that we have. The closest thing that we have was that we had a word-of-mouth agreement that when they gave up their nuclear weapons in 93, 94, somewhere along that time, we
Which they
basically
broke.
gave them a word.
Which
They didn't break it.
Yeah,
We broke it.
No, well, I mean,
We-
we kind of both broke it, but they were trying to sell the nukes back out of the back door, and Russia. It took like 10 years for Russia to eventually get all of the nukes back from Ukraine. So they broke.
Yeah,
the
that
deal.
sounds like horseshit because we took the nukes and we literally spun them down into nuclear fuel that we shoved in our reactors.
Some of it, yes, but not all of it.
That's not.
Citation needed on that one, my friend.
Anyway,
All right.
keep going.
But yeah, I would largely put like legally, unfortunately, we're not an ally to Ukraine. I will totally buy into the argument that they want to be a friend, and I'm fine with that. But as far as the actual like, hey, we have a legal treaty says that we're supposed to do it, unfortunately not. Which isn't our bad. Actually, I'm going to blame Clinton on that one.
Go ahead, Nonfod.
I mean, yeah, I would hope we would at least concede that, like, geopolitically, the U.S. is at least like behaving as if Ukraine is an ally. Like, we clearly, want Ukraine to
Well,
succeed
the
in the war.
prior
We're clearly
administration
helping Ukraine. We're behaving as if they're an ally. You might say they're not a very good ally. To which I would say, I mean, it seems like Ukraine does help us in a way. Like, for example, I know Ukraine shares military intelligence with us. We'll give them weapons, and then they report like how those weapons do on the field. I mean, Ukraine is going after one of our, main geopolitical rivals, weakening their military. That seems like an ally thing to do, right? I mean, obviously they're doing so in defense of their own nation, but still. And there's probably, I mean, they are an important trading partner for Europe at the very least. I don't know how much we trade directly with Ukraine, but they were trying to join the EU. They provide the EU with a lot of their bread, and I think it's fair to consider at least some countries in the EU our ally as well. So,
Yeah, go ahead, Grid.
Yeah. So and I have it's weird. I actually had this document marked from some other debate that I did.
Sure.
According to the Arms Control Association, who should know, it took from it started in 1991 or 1990 with the Declaration of Sovereignty. Ukraine pledged to not accept, produce, or acquire nuclear weapons. However, despite this public commitment, Ukrainian politicians were not entirely united by the idea. Some felt blah, 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 blah. It's just a bunch of rhetoric.
Sure.
There were multiple accords with the United States and others until 2014. They finally gave up the last of the weapons or material.
Yeah. Well, I'll put it this way: the Arms Control Association doesn't ever hit my radar on anything. And then I've got a couple of issues just with what I was hearing.
well,
in terms,
are we
I mean,
ignoring the fact
timeline's
that the
pretty
reason
clear.
why they gave up? No, the reason why they gave up the nukes was for security, with security assurances that we have now been giving them weapons. That is their security assurance at the time that we are now doing. Would you really split hairs about that being an alliance?
There was no alliance.
I
There's no treaty.
well, hold
No,
on. That's
I'm saying, are you really splitting hair about the literal word of the alliance? Are you going to be a pedant about this? Come on.
well,
Because it's
well,
a
hold on.
legal thing.
I want to engage with what Gina just said real quick, and then you can go, Grid. I'm a little bit torn on this, right? So on one hand, I like kind of support something similar to that TIW's worldview. I'd add a few more countries like France and like Rwanda who are like actively like doing like replacing U.S. interest and doing stuff
We
for us.
didn't-
However, to Nina's point though, is we did make an agreement, and they might not be tangibly like a beneficial ally in the sense whatever, but because we made this agreement and we put people there, we've supplied them, we've now in our vested our interest in this. There is like some sort of I don't know if alliance is the right word. However, we do have like a obligation.
We gave them security assurances. We gave them security assurances. You
Can you
notice the
cite
thing
that?
when like Trump. You notice when Trump was meeting with Zelensky, one of the big things that he kept wanting to harp on was, I'm not going to sign anything without security insurances, and he's a giga chad for that, for sure. Because like that's what he needed, because that's the reason. The reason why we as the U.S. right now are giving them weapons, which by the way are munitions that we would have had to pay money to destroy anyways because they're old. It's not like we're giving them like our best, you know what I mean? Like the reason why that they were given those, that was because of the agreement that we signed years ago in 1991, I think, to have security assurances. But Trump won't fucking sign anything like that because he doesn't give a shit about actually giving them. And then why the fuck would they ever agree to any ceasefire that didn't require that?
Please show me a document where it said that we would give them military protection.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tiberius, while she looks for that.
Yeah. So just with Grid's point about the Ukrainian sovereignty and whatnot, we could probably go down that rabbit hole, but it would be a whole other conversation. So
yeah,
can we table that
largely?
I
mean, they
broke. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But
they didn't follow it. That's all that reason, you know. And they had to have multiple treaties. They had literally they renegotiated this multiple times. That's all you need to know. I mean, it started in. They signed the Lisbon Protocol in '92.
I don't know how to send this.
So on and so forth.
Like there was problems, right? Yeah, there was conversations about Ukrainian broken arrows and more particularly Russian ones.
Yeah,
the problem is I got 30 years of history all kind of going back in my head.
Perfect resource.
It ain't lining up, so we'll have to have that conversation later.
Yeah,
to Nina's point, I don't think that there is a formal treaty that I can think of. I know that there was some agreements made, and a lot of them were word of mouth, but most of it was just, oh, hey, we're going to take your nukes, and then we're going to imply that we'll give you security. The problem is that, to her point, and she's 100% correct on this, for us to back out of that, it does make us look like a very bad faith actor, particularly if somebody's going to give up their
we
nukes.
are a bad faith actor with the way that fucking Trump's behaving.
So what we signed was called the Strategic Armed Reduction Treaty. I'll do your homework for you. It was signed July 31st, 1991, by us in the Soviet Union, not Ukraine. We basically told.
Wait, what?
Ukraine,
what do you mean? No, what? No, you're already wrong. What do you mean? It was after the fall of the Soviet Union. There was no Soviet Union at the time. 1991?
It literally says.
What she's talking
You're
about
saying
is
in 1991 the Soviet Union exists?
It did.
Are you fucking retarded?
What?
It literally says the Strategic Arm Reduction Treaty was signed July 31, 1991 by the United States and the Soviet Union. This was
1931. We're not talking about that.
Stop. This was the
no, you should stop. We're not talking about that.
Soviet-Russian reductions of strategic nuclear weapons. It was
okay. Well, you're having a conversation with yourself.
That ensured.
Okay, we'll let the old man talk.
All right, what
Okay,
she's
that's not
talking
what,
about.
That's not what we're talking about. What we're
Yeah.
We
what
are
we're talking about is the
literally
Budapest
not. You are
Memorandum. I
delusional.
Go
You
ahead,
have no
Mike.
idea what we're talking about.
Please, let me get here, please.
But that's what he was talking about in 1991.
Yeah, we're talking about the Budapest Memorandum, which was signed between
Yes.
the U.S. and Ukraine, and I think like
nobody
Ireland
brought that
or
up.
the UK or whatever.
Correct.
It was where Ukraine gave up
Yes.
its nukes in exchange
Yeah,
for
Yes.
some
and,
security
Yes.
and does the,
Yes.
the Budapest Memorandum does not say anything about military support.
Well, it does say security.
I believe it.
That's great for what you're talking about. There's multiple Budapest memorandums, and that's not the one we're talking about.
No,
I believe it. I
He's-
think it's. I don't know if it's a security guarantee. I don't know if it's like a legally
It is
binding thing,
absolutely
but it
not a
was the
security
intention of it.
When they gave
was
up their
to
nukes,
say-
when they gave up their nukes, which was not in 19, I don't know,
They didn't-
42 or what the
They
fuck
had
you
a
said,
choice.
like,
Would
is
they
not what
give
we're
them
talking
up,
about,
or they were
bitch.
going to be
Like,
invaded
come
by
on.
Russia. That's literally how that worked. They had
Yeah,
a
in
choice.
1920 or whatever you said. Yeah, that's definitely what we're
I said
talking about.
1991.
He said 91. Like,
What are you
the problem I
saying?
have.
Correct. 90. Yes,
oh,
correct.
for fuck's
90.
sake.
All right, I have the exact quote just to clarify. So this is so number 4 of the Budapest whatever. Seek immediate Security Council action to provide assistance to the signatory if they become a victim of an act of aggression or an object of a threat of aggression, which nuclear weapons are used. So I guess you could say in theory that we would not be obligated because of them using like Russia's never used nukes. However, even if we were to say that Russia has threatened it, so that would fulfill the second part of that. So I feel like
we did
somewhat obligated.
ask Europe to help. We did exactly that. We sought help for them.
All right, let me split hairs here.
Okay.
Legalistically speaking, we have abided by our treaty obligations. What I have a problem with is that, at least a little bit from my friend Grid here, is I'm getting a little bit of like a one-track situation here. It was a good thing that Ukrainians gave up their nukes. Not
Sure.
in the present tense, but in the past tense, it was huge because Ukraine was broke. They didn't have the money to.
Yeah, they didn't
and
have the way
specialists-
to manage it.
Yeah, they didn't. You don't want nuclear weapons just not being maintained. It's a bad deal. All right. So this was a good deal.
Yeah.
I'm 100% with Nina when
I
it
agree
comes
with
full
you.
circle, where it's just like, yo, this is a bad look. I get that if you are a person who's like, you know what, I don't want to tangle with the Russians. I don't want to risk Atlanta and New York and fucking Seattle because of some place in Eastern Europe. I can get behind that argument, but someone please make that argument so I can at least address that, because right now it's just we're talking about what we should have done 30 fucking years ago.
Well, I mean, like, are you? I guess I don't know what you're
Well,
asking
I think
exactly.
the point
but, like,
is that we're being Nina's claiming that we are obligated to support Ukraine because
yes, that's what we agreed.
because we encouraged them to give up their weapons. Yet we
Correct.
did not. We've never promised to do anything more than basically
No, we did.
appeal on their
I
behalf
showed you.
to the EU, which we did, and the EU's told them to go fuck
No,
themselves.
we're doing exactly. Okay,
I don't think-
when we give them weapons, we're doing exactly what we said we were going to do, which is
no, that's not what that says at
supporting
all.
them. How so?
Seriously? Read it again, Gibbs.
So okay, I'll pull it back up. Yeah,
Number 4.
But yeah, okay. Seek immediate Security Council action to provide assistance to the signatory if
Security Council
quote,
Assistance
become a
to
victim of an act of aggression or an act or of a threat
And
of
we did
aggression
that.
in which nuclear weapons are used.
yeah, we gave them assistance. We're still giving them
No.
assistance. What do you mean?
Security. We were to appeal to the Security Council, which we did.
And they said that we should give them weapons. So
No, they did not. They told the Ukraine to go pound sand. That's why there's not
They
Ukraine.
always give- started doing okay. that
one
That's
time.
why there's
No,
literally not
every-
Ukraine.
every-
That's why the
really,
Ukraine is not- doesn't have troops on
when?
it.
Show. When did they say to go pound sand?
No, hold on. Like
Well, I'm
every one of these
paraphrasing.
like UN General Assembly resolutions and every one of these UN Security Council resolutions always sided with Ukraine. You can look at the votes, and it's like every country except for
Correct.
like Russia
Yeah, but did they
and
send them
Iran
anything?
are
Correct.
siding with
Okay, so
Ukraine
when did they
until
send
them
Trump got
money?
in office, by the way, and then
When
the
did
US
they
started
send them
voting
money?
along with Russia and
No,
Iran in the
you
Security Council in General
Problem.
Assembly resolutions.
Let me do this though. Let me go to all right, Tiberius. I see your hand. I'll let you respond, Tiberius, and then I'm going to say something after you speak because I want to jump in here real quick. Go ahead.
Okay, I haven't kept track of every single resolution in the UN about what happened with Ukraine, but let's be real here. It's really hard for me to even get on board with Team Lefty right now because the Russians have a fucking veto on the Security Council. So, like anything that the Security Council is going to say, hey, this is what we should do, the Russians are going to veto it, and it's going to be game over. I want to split hairs here because it pisses me off. On one hand, I feel like legally, yes, we did what we needed to do, and Grid's right. But moralistically and ethically speaking, we should go further. I'm 100% with
and
you.
if you want to make
that's
that
actually-
claim, cool. But making the claim that we were legally obligated to do something more than we did is wrong.
Cool.
And
Let
stop
me just expand on that. Real
I
quick.
disagree.
It doesn't matter if you disagree. It's
I think by
legally,
our
you're
agreement.
wrong.
I think by our agreements that we talked about that we were legally required to do that. What do you mean?
Well, let me
I
pose
don't
this
know if
question
the
to you
Budapest
then, Nina.
Memorandum was binding.
Let
I
me,
don't know.
let me pose this to you, Nina.
I mean, if you're being a pedant, then fine. But like you, okay, fine.
Well, no, hold on. Let me pose this to you, Nina, because you seem to be the most passionate on this issue on like as far as the left side. Let me give it to you like this. All right. So like
Left
say to
side?
me on the I mean, you're not a
Is being
conservative.
pro-Ukraine a left or right position?
No. I mean, I'm pro-Ukraine as far as a righty would be. Like, I like to sell weapons. So,
Okay.
but like, if I was to pose this question to you from like maybe someone more like on Grid's position, how would you sell like us supporting Ukraine to someone that is like, I don't know, pretty much like, why should we be over there? This seems like another man's war. Like, we've been over the seas
We're
for
not
the last
over
30
there.
years.
It's pretty easy. We're not over there. We're giving them our old munitions that we would have to pay money to get rid of anyways. Like all of the what is it, like $360 billion or whatever that we've given to Ukraine. The majority of that has been old munitions that we would have to pay to destroy anyways. Like it wouldn't have been like we're not giving them like cash. We're giving them our old shit. We're giving them our like World War II style or era munitions. It is a win. It is a you're a liar, but it's a win-win for us. It's an absolute win-win for us. Like
missiles.
giving
That's not World
people.
War II. What the fuck are you?
Well, hold on.
Of course
Some of this stuff is
not. Of course not. But I'm not
here.
saying that's the majority. Do you think that we've given them like
We gave them Patriot missile
$350
systems.
billion of just javelins? Like, get
We
out of
gave
here!
them
You have
Patriot
no
missile
idea what you're
systems.
talking
Let me-
about.
What are you talking
We
about?
give
I think we
them
only
a lot
recently
of like
started doing the Patriot
mines,
missiles.
aircraft, security things.
just-
These are military things that we do not use because we have better stuff. So what the fuck do we do with our shit? That is, we have a better thing. We're just giving them it. It's a literal win-win.
Well, so yeah, actually, let me piggyback off this and pose to you this question, Grit. Why would okay? So to some extent, I don't know about the World War II era, but we are selling them a lot of our old tech, and we are selling them some new stuff. We've invested in this, and we
They're
only
also
get
paying us.
Hold on,
we-
stop.
hold on.
stop. But
we only
we
get paid
gave them.
if they.
We
Well, no,
gave.
because they do have to. No, it's on a lend lease, right? They have to pay us back,
Yeah,
and we
sure.
only get
Yes.
paid back.
Yes.
Hey, in theory, but and we only get paid if they continue to exist. So,
well, that's the
and
only
Trump-
good point. That is the selling
Okay,
point.
here's one more. Trump also signed that the minerals deal. Some of those portions are in territory controlled by the Russians. And I mean, I don't know if you know U.S. history, but if you have something that we want and we've already signed for it, you don't want to be holding that land generally, right? How do you like argue like, hey, we shouldn't be over there whenever now we have vested interest in getting our money back from these people and their mineral rights? How would you say? Why would you argue we should still not be over there?
You mean as far as sending them weapons and war material?
Yeah, like
honestly,
it's like,
if they had prepaid, I'd have no problem. But the credit card deal, swiping a credit card, I have a little bit of a problem with that because you know how many countries have paid us back in war debt? 8.
We've gone over this before. It seems like a lot of. I think Britain paid off their war debt
Britain
in like
2016.
2016.
Like it was a lot. Like it took a long fucking time, man.
Yeah, it takes a while. That's how it works. Like, what do you expect countries to behave like a person?
From 1944.
That's
Well, look,
fine. They're paying interest.
She has already mentioned. It seems like there are benefits to the U.S. from supporting Ukraine, and I'd also say it seems like there are benefits probably for liberal democracies in sort of the global order generally by supporting Ukraine.
Sure.
I don't think the standard going forward should be if you invade a smaller country, you're allowed to just unilaterally change their borders if you have nuclear weapons or something. I don't think that's a world that we want to live in. And I think it's good that the U.S. sort of fulfills the role as the world police, as you like to call it, or whatever, to make sure countries have an incentive not to do that.
Hmm.
I think we're going to turn this into entirely a Ukraine conversation, and
No.
I have no problem doing that. But like,
No,
this is
we're
going to
about
be
to-
a very this
No,
is
Well,
gonna
I
be a
should
very
get
one
started
section.
that way, but okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. I was actually wait. I was gonna let you say one more thing, and then we're gonna go. But that's fine. Perfect segue. So let's talk. Let's open it up to Trump and China here. I mean, how do we think he's doing foreign policy? I know Nina spoke first. I'll let you go ahead and say what you were saying because you didn't. You seem to think it was very bad what Trump has done with the tariffs and the trade deal. What are your thoughts, Nina? Go ahead and you can start us off with this.
Trump and China. I think that I think that China's unironically, as much as I am an America simp, as you can tell by my gigantic American flag, I think America is the best country in the world, as much as I don't love it right now. But it is something I will always love, of course. But I think that China is just calling our bluff. We're just doing a hem and haw. We're doing a push and pull. Like we're doing nothing here. Trump is just floundering. I don't think that China should capitulate to America because we're just being fucking retards right now, fiscally. And I think that one of the biggest issues that we're seeing here is with these inconsistencies. They're like, oh, it's going to create different things in the market later. No, what people want to do with their businesses is they want stability. They want to make businesses, or they want to have like things with China or whatever, because they know what they're going to expect. And now it's that we can't do that now in America. Like, what the fuck? Like, we are literally living in a world where we have no idea. Like, there's people who have small businesses who make, like, I don't know, manufacture. I think I read something about somebody who like made like baby stuff, like, and they can't pay the tariffs. Like, this is insane. Like, because again, tariffs are a tax on individual or on businesses. It is not a tax on the other people. Like, they're like, I can't have this. I can't pay for this. Like, there's nothing I can do. And it's just it's so fucking wild to think that
Are we gonna have an
China's going to be the
argument,
one paying for this?
Are we going to get a position?
No.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, am I going on too long?
No,
sorry,
you're
I was
just
getting
spurting
like
out, and nowhere in that rambling, incoherent obfuscation was there.
That
an
was
argument.
incoherent, and
I-
what about that was incoherent? Do you
Oh,
want to
I
ask
got
a
a point
question?
out of that, but go.
Yeah, okay. Here's what we'll do. Good time. Everybody get an
What was
opening on
the
this. Go
point
ahead.
of that? Can you help me out?
Okay. Well,
To explain that.
Well,
to
that I
us,
thought that
okay.
the point of that was that I think that the tariffs are very bad, and they're really fucking up the
Okay.
fact that people that
All
are
right, there we
running small
go. Got it.
businesses have no ability to figure out how they're going to go about getting their inventory.
we'll go with
Was that
Tiberius.
was that
We'll-
incoherent? Was that incoherent or like what?
That was.
I
way
don't
Keep
know.
your
better.
hate
Can
boners to yourself.
That's
can
fine.
just
Here's what
do
we're gonna
that
do
from
next.
now on, and not like
Oh, yeah.
spurg out on both sides, and just stick to the
Listen,
non-spurgy part.
this-
Well, you know
this is-
what would be great if you could just respond to what I said.
All right, so here's what we're gonna do though. I'm gonna let Tiberius go next, and then non-fine, then Grid, you can go, and then we'll open it up to free debate again. Go ahead, Tiberius.
Did Nonfon get a spot in this already? I
He's
just
he's
missed
going.
that?
He's going after you.
Okay, gotcha.
That was making
Anyway,
too much sense.
long story short, I will try to table the greater tariffs conversation here, if we can, please. I prefer not to give Nonfon a stroke, and then also I don't have time to debate the greater nuances
Yeah,
of
go ahead.
tariffs.
Focus on China. Focus on China.
Yeah, China. I'm having a real hard time with this because one of the handful of things that I actually legitimately loved about Trump, and there's like 8 of them, right? Almost everything else he sucks at, is that his first presidency actually changed the narrative on China. Everyone in DC was kissing China's ass on how great they were and how it was wonderful that we were making money. And, it's just the great experiment because they were having some pro-democracy movements back in the 2000s. And we thought they were going to go liberal. Well, that conversation aside, Trump actually got people to treat the Chinese as a malevolent actor. And that was not talked about in Japan. That was not talked about in Washington.
Japan?
I don't know what happened.
in Japan? No, I'm just
Error
kidding.
404. Leave me alone. Anyway, long story short, this was not talked about in DC. Trump changed not only the conversation in DC, he changed it on the national level. Getting the United States to treat the Chinese like a malevolent actor was a huge win of Trump won for me. However, I don't get what the fuck he's doing. Because if it was just my way, Trump continue to trump and just tell the Chinese to go fuck off. Tariff them at 200%, cut them out of the American-led order. If you don't want it to be a democracy, if you don't want to believe in human rights, get fucked. You don't get nice things. That's what I want to see going forward with U.S. foreign policy. That's what I want to see. But Trump is doing this weird shit where it's like, I'm going to tariff you. Oh, wait, we can have a deal. I'm going to tariff you. Oh, wait, we can have a deal. All right, Trump, if you want to have a better deal with the Europeans, I'm all on board with this, dude. But what is this with China? Cut them fucking out of the picture. You don't believe in human rights, you don't get fucking money. Simple as that. But we're not going to do that shit. It fucking pisses me off. Trump, step your game up and you could actually be a good president. But anyway, moving along.
Wait, you think the reason they're tariffing them is because of the human rights violation?
No, what I'm saying is that that's what I want them to do. I want the United States to tariff nations who are like, hey, look, you're a dishonest actor. You imprison all your fucking people. You don't have democracy.
But you recognize that's not what's happening, right?
Yeah. Not what's happening.
Gotcha.
I'm just saying, like, that's what I want. And even if I don't get the reasoning behind it, if that's what we actually get, I'm still counting that as a win.
And justify the means.
No, not necessarily that. Don't put me in a box here. I know what you're doing.
But anything.
I believe that politics should have virtue ethics behind it, and I believe that if you want an actual benevolent capitalist society, it has to back it up. It has to say, I'm not trading with you if you're a cunt. If you break all of our copyright laws, if you fucking go after our citizens and shit, no, get fucked. We're not dealing with that.
All right, not fine. Go ahead, and then we'll get Grid last, and then we'll open it up again.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like all the deals that Trump is quote unquote striking, not that these are like real deals yet, are or it seems like they're gonna keep the 10% tariff on basically everyone for most industries at least, and I'm very much against that. It's hard for me. It is very hard for me to imagine a possible deal with China that would be so good as to compensate for the uncertainty effects of the tariffs and the effects of the tariffs themselves at 10%. I don't think we've even seen from the UK or China any meaningful concessions from them. I don't even know what has China publicly agreed to anything yet. I don't think so. They're just the pause to negotiate tariffs or whatever. I don't think there's a clear. I don't think there's a clear goal, and it's very hard for me to say any deal at this point would actually be a net benefit, considering we've already seen a GDP contraction. But anyway.
All right, Grid, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of echo what Tiberius said. Look, and my wife is Chinese, by the way. Just in full disclosure, my wife is actually Chinese. I own property in China. So
Bye. He's paid for by China.
So yeah, I wish I was. Here's the thing. Tariff. I mean, I don't care about. I think the tariffs were a much better political move than a financial move anyway. I think they actually had some value there.
Yeah.
Personally, stop. I'm talking now. Personally, I think that it would do America a lot of good to bring all trade back away from China. I would love to just shut China out, 100%. Like 500% tariff, just like they did GM cars back in the day. Fuck you guys. And the horse you rode in on, and the long tall Texan that's going to bend you over next week. I don't care. And a matter of fact, Trump can't hit them hard enough. He can't. And again, I own property over there. It'll hurt me a little bit. It's going to hurt my feelings. I own a manufacturing company. It'll hurt me a little bit. I don't really give a shit.
All right, attack. Everybody can go now.
So does the CCP own it, or do you actually own it?
I mean, nobody actually owns anything in China. Although, to be honest with you,
you don't even own it. Oh my God!
Although to be honest, I'm actually not 100% clear on that, because unlike America, where you actually never own it because you have to pay property taxes and eminent domain is a thing.
You never own it.
And eminent domain is a thing.
Oh my God! Are you the libertarian with the Asian wife? Is that who you are? Are you the meme?
In China, I actually don't. I think that we own it for like 100 years or some shit like that, which is fine with me. I'll sell it.
Well, I don't think you do. You just told me you didn't own it.
Just sell it. 100 years isn't gonna matter to me, but that's fine.
Is that why you hate me? Because I'm Japanese?
Are you Japanese, really?
Oh.
I could have sworn you're like Vietnamese.
No, I'm just lying to you.
I mean, I don't think
I
they
would
would
have
have known
Vietnamese, but okay, I believe you're Japanese.
Anyway,
That is
moving on.
incredibly
My-
racist thing to say, but okay. Go ahead.
What?
You
Daddy
asked.
believes you. Okay, moving on. Going on.
No, I don't.
Tiberius.
Okay. Well,
Tiberius,
Not
you,
fun.
you
There you
can't
go, yeah.
die laughing down there, man.
Sure.
Breathe.
I am dying laughing. This is some of the most ridiculous shit I have seen. And I work with fucking electricity and fucking chemicals that can explode in my face. Like, and guys, come on. Put your hate boner
okay.
away.
Well,
I
my
have better shit to
understanding
do.
is that in China you can get like 99-year leases for things. I don't know if it's ever actual ownership or if it's just 99-year leases. But more importantly,
Yeah,
Grid, do you think so? To be clear, you do think Trump is messing up here and trying to get some deal with China, and that you want Trump to just tear
Go
China
harder.
at 500% and try to cut them out completely?
Yeah, I think that would be. I mean, for me, my personal opinion, I think that's way better than any alternative.
This is
Okay.
ironically
Do you
something that I
think
could
Trump
even.
made a mistake.
Sorry.
Or I was gonna say, do you think that Trump made a mistake pulling out of the TPP?
I'm sorry.
Do you think Trump made a mistake walking away from the Trans-Pacific Partnership that would have had basically free trade with a lot of our Asian Pacific allies?
It's hard to say because I think a lot of the trade deals right now are not slanted heavily enough to our side, and we tend to prop up and I mean we support a lot of other nations at the detriment to the United States, and I'm tired of it.
How do we
I
support
think this is.
Vietnam or the Philippines at the detriment to the U.S. with trade?
What do you mean? How do you not? How is it beneficial for us to have Nikes made in Vietnam?
Because
We
we're
have
not the one
access
then
to
making
super
the
goods
fucking
and-
like weave.
Yeah. So Vietnam or whatever in the Philippines, they have a lot of they're factor endowments. They're abundant in labor, so they specialize in a lot of labor-intensive goods, and that lets
Correct.
U.S. consumers have access to cheap Nike shoes, and that's good for U.S. consumers. And then it frees up other resources in the U.S. to go do other more productive things. So you end up raising wages. You end up increasing exports as well because now Vietnam has dollars that they then spend on U.S. goods and assets. Yeah, there are a lot of gains from trade.
Are you sure that that's what's happening?
I am 90%.
What are you
sure. Yes,
asking?
I'm very confident.
Well, so here's the thing. So you say that those shoes are made over there cheaper, and sure, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the rate of a pair of shoes in fucking Vietnam is right now. But we can.
Well, do you think if you made them in America that we'd be able to make them at the same
I love how
price?
you interrupt. I love
Well, can you
how
just
you
answer my
interrupt.
question?
I think that's why I married a Chinese woman that doesn't interrupt.
What? What is happening?
Oh
Let's keep
my
the race
God.
stuff out of this. No race stuff. I don't know where this is coming from.
She brought it up.
Can you just answer the question?
I didn't hear the
answer
question.
Let her ask your question, then you can respond.
That's
I was
awesome
responding
that
to
you realized
non-cons.
that
How can I
you were being like antagonistic without even listening to my question. It said, "Do you really think that people could make that here?"
Yeah, absolutely. Why could we?
You
Is
think
there
that people
anything in the
wanna
world
be
you think that
making
we can't
shoes?
make here?
You think that people want to be making widgets here?
Hold on, Grid. You're correct in that we could make it here. We could probably make more shoes in Vietnam here than Vietnam could actually, but that
Sure.
is an opportunity cost,
Do-
right?
do
The
you-
same-
hold
the
on,
same
hold
reason
on,
that
hold
you
on,
don't
hold
do
on.
everything
Before you-
yourself, right?
before
You
you-
specialize
Before you run away,
Affordably.
stop. Before you run away, what do you
No,
think
nobody's running away.
the cost of making a pair of shoes here versus in Vietnam?
I don't know
is?
how much.
I'm asking you. You said that it's better. You made
Well,
the
I don't know
claim.
how much. You're the one who brought it
You
up. How
made
much?
the claim. I'm asking the question. Answer the question.
You have no idea. So you have no idea.
Obviously, that's why I'm fucking asking you. You made the claim. Don't be an idiot.
Well, look, Grid, the market has clearly spoken here. There's a revealed preference. Shoes are made in Vietnam because the
What
market
the fuck?
aggregates information.
Well, maybe
for
that's
us.
Correct.
because
We
the
don't actually
government
have to have the
subsidizes
information.
that.
The
Maybe
Do
there
you
are
think
other
people
external
want to be
factors
making
making that up.
shoes?
The problem is I don't know what those external
Do you want to be
factors are.
making shoes? Do
Let me
you
just-
want to
I'm
be making
asking
shoes?
you to prove that shoes can be made cheaper in Vietnam than here. Are there
Okay,
shoe
I'll let-
to
factories here?
prove that?
Are there
What do
shoe
you think? The
factories
fact that
here?
they are
Are
There is
there
already
shoe
proof
factories
of that.
here?
One second,
Are
Tiberius. I see your hand.
fucking
I'll get you in. One
The
second.
fact that they're already made there is clearly, when we live in a
Are there
capitalist
shoe
environment,
factories here?
a
I just want to
proof
know. Come on.
that is clearly
Georgia
cheaper.
boot is Georgia boot in Georgia or is it in
They're-
Vietnam?
There are obviously shoe factories here, but that's
Oh,
just
really?
because of the
Fucking
that's
hell,
just-
mate.
Yeah, I understand, but that's just because opportunity cost increases with scale, right? The more shoe production you have in the U.S., the more factors, land, labor, capital, ideas that you're going to displace from other
Well,
sectors.
then you
So it
then
makes
you
sense
are
to
hold on,
me
think
hold on.
that
I
right.
shoe
do.
production would be
Hold
here.
on, hold on. I
but-
want to jump in here just a little bit, real quick, and I'm going to give it to Tiberius. Just for like, let me give you an example here, right? Like, I bought some boots the other day because I own a leather company, and I like to custom
Were they
them, right?
cowboy boots?
They were cowboy boots, and I wanted to like custom them up, and so I bought them from like a Vietnamese place, and had them shipped, and I bought the same like kind of like design from a Mexican discotheque kind of place where they sell the boots, and the quality difference was drastically different, and they were about the same price, right? And the ones from the Mexican place was way higher quality, and it was way cheaper. Like, well, not way cheaper. It was
Mhm.
about the same price, right? And so I'm not. It was. So I'm kind of interested, like, when we're saying these things, like, can we make them here? Well, the answer seems to be yes, because I doubt that these guys, maybe if they were getting them from Mexico, maybe, but I don't see how that's any fundamentally different from why we couldn't open that here. It kind of, when they have similar wages compared to Vietnam, which is basically slave labor. They have sweatshops that's legal over there, and if we're able to produce that in Mexico with its comparable labor prices, how does that not indicate we couldn't build something here? I'll let non-fun. I know you want to object to that, and then Tiberius,
But well, again, I mean, I would just focus on we can make it here. There's just an opportunity cost to doing so, right? Like literally almost any good other than like fruits that maybe can only be grown in the tropical climates or whatever could be made in the U.S. But the people making shoes in the U.S. are people that otherwise could have been educated, could have gone on to engineering, could have gone on to work for Apple, could have gone on to do much higher productivity things that are much higher up in the value chain.
Is
And
You're
that's
making
why-
the service,
and again,
the service
Well, hold
economy
on.
argument,
Or
right?
even working
Let
at
me
like
just-
a hold on,
Well,
also
the
the
service
working at
economy,
like
yes, but also-
a factory that
So you have a
combines
problem
those
with people
things
that
as
dig ditches?
Well, hold on. I want to actually, that's kind of where I'm going. Non-fun. I want non-fun to answer.
No,
this.
nobody has a
I'll
problem
go
with people who dig ditches.
I'll
You're
get
bad
this.
faith
Hold
if
on.
you have your
Americans
really
get
nice
all
face
this
and like
fine.
that.
I just want you to answer this though, quick, non-fun. Do you have like I know you advocated for just now, like these other jobs over one or the other. If they're like equal pay, just like for say, why is one preferred over another? Like a service industry job over like I don't know, an industrial job or an agriculture job. Why do you see that as a preferred outcome if the pay is comparable or the benefits are comparable?
I don't intrinsically view any job as like necessarily more valuable than another one.
You just
I
said you
just don't
did.
believe. I essentially believe the
No,
government.
I
shouldn't
think that you're
interfere,
being
and we
bad
should just
faith
let
in
the
your
market-
phrasing.
We should let the
I'm
market.
not trying to
shift
be
the
bad. I'm just
composition of
asking you to like
jobs
maybe
over time.
clarify for me here. Yeah, go ahead. So finish that up. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead. Repeat that.
Me
Not
or
fun. You not.
Yeah,
Repeat
so
the-
basically my position is trade has all these other benefits, and it seems like trade probably in aggregate is going to increase wages. Trade is probably going
Sure.
to increase long run growth and all these things. So it seems like it makes sense to basically not have the government artificially protect one type of job over another type of job. We should just let the market grow over time, and I'm sure the composition of jobs will shift. But I am also, I've told you guys before, I think trade is maybe responsible for like 20% of the decline in manufacturing employment, and I think the rest has to do with automation. But
Okay, yeah, I was just curious how you thinking that. Go ahead, Tiberius.
All right, just to avoid the economic doctrine conversation, we're going to put that over there, is that when it comes to the TTP conversation, because I thought that was the only constructive part we were going
TTP?
with it. Yes, Trans-Pacific Partnership. This was a deal that got axed in 2018, 2017.
Do you
But
want
it
to
was
explain that?
basically it was a
What Gibbs asked me about. Or no, pardon me, Non-Fon asked me about.
Yeah,
What
no,
was what
had asked,
Sure.
had
I
asked
just
him
want
about
to
his
know
opinion.
where I'm not familiar.
Basically, a free trade deal with anyone who touches the Pacific was able to get in on this. So it was everyone from the
Okay.
United States to Chile, right? And then also on the other side.
Sure.
So Australia all the way up to Russia. Everyone was eligible. The United States pulled out. And basically the conversation was that Trump does not believe in free trade, or at least wants to put limitations
Well, why did
on
they
it.
pull out?
Rubber
basically,
tool.
we don't want
Well,
to
Trump-
integrate. We don't want to. Excuse me. We didn't want a deal where the Chinese were going to be involved going forward.
Well, no, you're
Like,
saying
if-
every other country pulled out, right?
No,
the
we did.
United
No, the
States
U.S.
pulled out.
They
We
actually
pulled
went-
out.
almost
Okay, you
we-
said
every
every.
country went on
Okay,
to sign.
okay.
Almost every other
gotcha.
country went on to sign the deal, the
Yeah.
TPP. They called it the CPTPP. And the reason I brought it up is because if you look at eventually, like the UK got
Gotcha.
into the TPP, and if you look at
Okay.
the agreements that they made to join the TPP, the UK like reduced their tariffs on a lot of exports from other countries. If the US was just joined the TPP, we would have gotten a better trade deal than what Trump is going to get by
Gotcha.
threatening
Yeah.
tariffs on the UK.
Okay,
And I
gotcha.
think it is an anti-China strategy to have free trade with
Oh, it
countries
makes
that are
sense.
Yeah, so-
semi-adversarial to China. So that's why I
Mhm.
asked Grid that question. Yeah.
Again,
Fair
ignoring
enough.
the economic doctrine conversation, is that I had both praises and problems with the TTP because it was everyone can largely join in if you have any possessions in the Pacific, right? Well, I'm cool with trading with Japan and South Korea and Taiwan
Australia.
and hell, even the Philippines, Australia,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Hey, Chile, you're welcome to get on board with this. I'm not sure about Vietnam. I definitely don't want to trade with China anymore. North Korea can go suck sand. The Russians technically border the Pacific, so they can fucking pound sand
Was
too.
North
Like,
Korea part of the TPP?
no, but they were eligible for membership, and that's kind
Oh,
of my
then it's
argument.
irrelevant.
They would have never
Yeah.
been accepted.
They would never been a thing.
I mean,
but
I assume every country is eligible, right?
anyone
I
who
assume that's how it
has
works?
possessions that go to the Pacific Ocean. That's
Oh
who
yeah,
is
okay. So
eligible.
then yeah, they would potentially. Okay.
So like
gotcha.
half the planet.
Gotcha.
And the reason why this scares me is not because it's like, oh, not only North Korea actually bad, but also I am scared shitless of what is happening in Vietnam, but also in China, where China was growing. They looked like they were going to have a liberal movement, and then it got squashed by big data because they're communists. I am going to be critiquing leftism here to a little bit. But these more authoritarian leftist governments that I think that you would not appreciate, being a Democrat, they are using the power of the
What,
state.
do you
to
think
crush the shit out of
Democrats
people.
like? Wait, hold on. I gotta stop you here.
Uh-huh.
You're kind of like making a little bit of a straw man here. Do you really think that Democrats like China?
Some do, for sure.
I'm sure some do. Correct.
Yeah. Anyway, what I was more going at is that I was saying that if you are a democratic socialist or a DemSoc, right?
Sockdom.
SocDem. Sorry, you're still
Mhm.
definitely in the democratic movement.
Sure.
Yeah, we appreciate democracy. We appreciate republics and the rule of law. China is not abiding by that. They should not be encouraged to trade with us. And they've gotten rich, they've gotten powerful because we did trade with them. And now we have a major problem on our hands.
We've also gotten rich and powerful trading with them. That's how trade. It's
Yeah,
literally
mutually
trade.
beneficial.
Okay, so yeah,
Are you
I-
thinking? Are you in the Trump school of thinking that like for some reason trade is a zero sum game?
it's not a zero sum game at all. What
But-
I'm putting in here is two different things.
Well, let
Number
me.
one
Okay.
is that even if it hurt us, keeping China bricked
It
like
doesn't.
it was a win.
You
We
are talking
empowered
about
them-
a completely different thing. If we're gonna completely talk about different things, then let me talk about this. Do you
Okay.
think that we are not safer with the fact that we have economic ties to China? China is a
Absolutely
capitalist. As much as people think, you unironically think that China is like, I don't know, communist.
They're fascist, is what they
Yeah,
actually
they're-
are.
Yes, they're capital fascist. They're capitalist fascists, right? Would you agree with that or no?
Considering fascists hate capitalism, that's weird, but okay, sure.
No, fascism has nothing to do with capitalism. Fascism
You-
is just a mechanism of
Do
control.
we really need to discuss this?
Yeah,
I was gonna say, like-
okay, hold on, let me just finish my point.
Okay.
The point being, like, do you really think that China? Okay, let's just grant me this. We don't have to argue. This.
Maybe.
China is a capitalist country. They like doing trade because it makes their country stronger via the fact that it's their capitalist mechanism that their economy works under. Will you grant me that?
For charity's sake, sure. Where are you going with this?
Okay, let's do that. So let's imagine two capitalist countries, America and China. Both of
Yeah.
them want to benefit off of their capitalistic trade, right? So why would they do you not think that on a global scale that peace could be attained in a sense of the fact that you don't want to fuck up that capitalistic trade that's happening within your two countries?
To a degree, it can, but the problem is it has a blowback effect. Is that you can
How?
actively empower malevolent actors who will take their wealth and in a
But the
time of
problem-
crisis
no,
they'll
the-
throw
but
it
the
at somebody.
Yeah, but the problem is that, like, again, with capitalism does have a marriage to democracy, where if you have a bunch
Sure.
of different companies that, like, okay, well, you might have like 2 companies or 20 companies that might want to support that, but there might also be like 1,000 companies that don't support that. So then they can put their economic wealth behind disagreeing with that position.
But
I'm with
hold
you up
on.
to a point. Hold on, let me finish this
ahead.
grid and then I'll go with you. And then I'll just turn this over. I'm with you to a
Hold on.
point. The problem is that we have.
And then grid. So go ahead.
Okay, the problem is that we've empowered authoritarian capitalists in your framing. And these people have no problems about taking the most malevolent actors and elevating them into being number one kleptocrats, but also the worst part is that they stifled their own system to the point where, like, yeah, they welded people during COVID in their houses.
I was going to mention it.
Like, they welded them into their
It's not
apartments.
really that relevant to what I'm saying.
I think it is because it's like we empower.
No, we're talking about business. We're talking about business.
Business does go along with ethics, right?
We're talking
You
about
believe
money.
this.
We're talking about money here. We're
We're
not talking
also
about people getting welded into their houses. No.
All right. Well, I'm trying to keep this as bare bones as I can, but like business has ethics to it,
Because you're not
right?
paying attention. Okay.
Okay, well, let me just.
Let me
hold
help.
on.
Let me help.
I'm gonna
out
pause
here.
this.
Wait, I do want to.
Hold on.
Okay.
Pause. This is a good pause. Hi, Cal. We're talking about America versus China right now.
Hi, Cal. Good to see you, my
Thank you for
guy.
being. I'm glad you got to be here. I know you had to come late. Appreciate you for being here. Go ahead and give your opening on China and America. And what you think's
Cal's the
going
only
on with
man I've
this.
ever seen that seems like he's getting younger.
Hey, that's a good problem to have.
Just slowly dyeing my beard and black.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not 100% sure like where you are like in the arc of that conversation,
Just
but I'll
attack
just
from
say
wherever you want.
Where are you saying you
that's
to?
okay. I'll say based on what I've heard so far is I do think maybe I'm staking a position between the two people that I just like heard most recently, which is to say I think it does make sense to have targeted tariffs with places like China, only because there's certain behavior that we want to encourage and certain behaviors that we want to discourage, and we have to like figure out where those are. Like, for instance, there's for a long time there's been a conversation as to whether the Kyoto Accords and specifically now, more recently, the Paris Accords, were even worth doing because it's really impossible to incentivize behavior with them. Like, there's really no teeth to those treaties. But if you tied trade to them and said, okay, like your ability to achieve most favored nation status or the percentage of specific tariffs that you're going to have is going to be looked at individually. And if you reduce your emissions, then your tariff barriers go down. You can pull those levers at different points and get the kind of behavior that you want. Not just in American interest, but certainly we want that. But in the example that I'm giving about climate, in the world interest. And I think that there's a lot of other ways in which China's competition is unfair. One of them is that they don't have the same kind of labor laws that we have. So if we had tariffs that would reward them like treating their workers better, which also makes it easier to compete with them because it's closer to a level playing field, that sort of thing. Those kinds of tariffs, I would be for. Obama had massive solar panel tariffs, for instance, for which he got attacked by a lot of people on the left because of what they thought it might do to the solar industry going forward in the United States. We had similar, we had the CHIPS Act, for instance, which used trade to some extent as part of the large actions that were authorized by the CHIPS Act in order to get China to behave in ways that we wanted it to, or to create alternatives to it. blanket tariffs are the problem because it's not a lever that you can pull. But even with Trump, like when we saw these tariffs that went back down to 10% on one side and 30% on the other side, it was because 20% on the 30% side had to do with what Trump was trying to do with fentanyl, right? Now I think the fentanyl stuff is probably, I don't think China's trade policy had a whole lot to do with fentanyl in the United States. But fine, if you want to say that if you do these things with fentanyl, then this 20-point tariff goes away or whatever, those kinds of targeted tariffs at least have some logic to them, and I can sort of understand it. It's the blanket tariffs, particularly ones that treat every country in the world as as bad of an actor as China is, that makes no sense to me. Like, if you can change these things to targeted tariffs and then you can make it rational in terms of what it is we expect from China, I would be a lot more sympathetic to what's going on.
All right, we're gonna go to Grid, and then we're gonna go non-fun, then I'll open it up again. Y'all got chat. Go ahead, Grid.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of go off. I'm going to be maybe a little bit harsher than iCal and more along lines of Tiberius. China is a bad actor in the world, on the world stage. They just are. They steal IP. They literally have, for a lot of the cheaper products, they literally have people basically in slave labor. And the fact that any of you support that is absolutely disgusting. I don't want to give China $1. I mean, as a matter of fact, I would sell my property there tomorrow if that were technically possible. You guys just don't get it with how bad it is. Now, and I'm going to say this because and I'll just relate this just really quickly. Years ago, I was going to do a private label engine parts deal, and because my wife speaks Chinese, I was in Shenzhen. That's where they're made. I went to the factories. Those factories are amazing. They're modern. They're cool. All the people run around in jumpsuits. They all look alike and are all dressed alike. Then it's far and away much more professional than American, than a lot of American manufacturing that I had been exposed to. The reason we didn't do it was the buy-ins and some other things. But then I started to really dig down deep into how China does its business and how they third shift manufacturers or purchasers and designers. What
is third shifting manufacturers?
Well, third shifting means that they make whatever product you give them to make, they make it for you for 2 shifts, and then they run a third shift off the books of the exact same product to the exact same specifications and sell it under a private label. That's called third shift.
Oh, so it's like stealing your IP, basically.
It's just basically they sell your product for half the price that you're selling it for. And so I have a real problem with the way that most, and not most, a lot of business gets done in China. Now, China has tried very hard to stamp out, whatever you want to say, the corruption, but it's just kind of innate, especially when you get into the cheaper product levels. And Tiberius is right, iCal's right. You just have to punish them in some way. That's all. We keep looking at this through Western eyes, and we can't. And I think Tiberius actually was really kind in his estimation. And I've mellowed a little bit here because I had to sit here. I actually have a question for my chat for the panel, if that's cool. Can I do that?
I want to add one. So yeah, you ask a question, and I'm going to say something. Then it's going to non-fun. Go ahead.
Yeah. And this is actually probably more for a non-fun. If the economy is bad and you have to change a deficit, is it worse to put the burden on a specific product rather than a blanket tax or a subsidy? Pardon me. Can't read.
And then you can respond to that non-fun as well. But I just want to add that part of what
I think it's mostly non-fun's a guy, right? Like he's the economics guy.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing to that. It's also part of what Grid said about the stealed IP. One of the other nefarious factors is that they'll wait until you see a certain market share, like that is yours. They'll see, oh, he's making X amount of dollars on this, and then what they'll do is they'll just rip it if you part own it, like the straight IP, and do what they're doing. And part of the reason why that's so nefarious is like a company like say Grid. I don't know what he does exactly, but say he made I don't know propellers, and they're like, okay, I have the special IP on this propeller. Well, China's not gonna recognize that. Oh, they see it's made this margin, and before he's recouped his losses on R&D, they'll go out and produce their thing and sell it worldwide at a much cheaper cost, and then he can't even compete because it's the exact same product. And I mean, the name's only worth so much. That's kind of part of what he's alluding to is it's like an instant L for the non-Chinese company. But go ahead, Anfon, you can respond to both of those things. Go ahead.
Okay, there's like 500 things I have to respond to, but so
I'm sure you got a list.
what I
Go
wanted
ahead.
to interject.
Nobody
yeah,
interrupt
so
him.
what I wanted to interject a little earlier between Nina and Tiberius is I do think there is at least mixed evidence that free trade increases peace between nations. Obviously, having economic ties to another nation is going to stop you from wanting to go to war with them. Now, there are obviously national security issues. We probably shouldn't be relying on China for batteries because in the event of war of Taiwan or China, we would be cut off from a supply of batteries, cut off from our supply of drones, and we should probably be doing something to onshore that production here. I'm basically convinced at this point that tariffs are rarely actually optimal and subsidies are often better or whatever. And then on Grid's point about slave labor, look, I mean, there's no reason to believe that slave labor is actually good and mutually beneficial because it's involuntary. But I would say, like, if we want to set up a conversation about sweatshops at some point, I am pro sweatshop, baby. Sweatshops provide a better living standard than the areas around them. A lot of times the only chance for these countries to actually develop and interact in the world economy is to have sweatshops and make cheap goods or whatever. That increases their growth over time, and that'll actually reduce long run child labor. A lot of times the alternative for these countries is to be a poor agrarian society, essentially indefinitely, without trade and without sweatshops.
Yeah. May I comment on that just really quick?
I would also say it's
just let him finish. You got a few. He's been waiting, and then you can go ahead. Greg. Go ahead, finish up.
Yeah, I know. On the combating China and all that stuff. Listen, I brought this up earlier. I think real anti-China trade policy would be similar to the TPP. I think Trump made a mistake. Going away from that, I think if we want to combat China, we should have free trade with our allies and all that stuff. And like I said, the deal that Trump is getting with these other nations, first of all, Japan wasn't even able to get a deal in the non-legally binding agreement that the UK has said is the scope of the deal they want to sign. It's actually worse than the deal we would have got if we just stayed in the TPP because the UK joined the TPP and they agreed to reduce tariffs on all the exports coming from the TPP countries. As for your question of if the economy is bad and we need to fix a deficit, is it better to have a burden on specific products or blanket tariffs? Is that the question? Like, are we? You might have to clarify.
I have to. I got to scroll back up, but just give me 1 second. I'll get it.
I mean, I wouldn't view the trade deficit as a problem.
I agree.
And I don't think I would. I don't think the economy is holistically bad right now. And I think insofar as Trump backs away from his tariffs, it will only get better. But certainly the economy is worse than it would be if Trump had never mentioned tariffs. I think that's basically undeniable. But.
Oh my God, yeah.
So I'm curious, the idea of sweatshops. So I will agree. I will agree that when you look at it through a Westerner's viewpoint, the fact that somebody makes the equivalent of $80 US a month to an American sounds horrible, but in context where they actually live, that's probably that. And I've got a really cool story about that I'll tell you sometime.
And that's what Trump wants to bring back to here, baby.
So the I can't find where he. Asked me that. I'm sorry.
Where's the topic go? Can someone remind me what the hell we?
I don't remember where we go.
We got a little off course.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. We can move on to the next one. We got one more here.
Wait, hold on. I do want to add
the blanket. I think it was a blanket subsidy or something.
Yeah, just one final thing, and then we'll move on to the next one because I want to.
I have one final thing too.
Okay, go ahead. You will get. Well,
I want. Yeah. Everyone in the audience should remember this. Everyone in this panel should remember. A tax on imports is equivalent to a tax on exports. It is called Lerner symmetry theorem. So just remember, anytime Trump strikes a trade deal where we still have a 10% tariff on the UK or whatever, even if the UK reduces tariffs on our exports, a tax on imports is equivalent to a tax on exports. So Trump is still taxing our exports if he leaves tariffs on other countries. Look up Lerner symmetry theorem.
Bullshit. Anyway, go on.
It's not
Go ahead.
bullshit.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that if this conversation were to have gone on longer, like this list of things that China does that is bad, which is the IP theft, there's actually, I looked it up the other day. There were 7 things that Trump wanted to address, the complaints that he had with China that he wanted to deal with on this. And yet we just hit this 90-day deal where we dropped our tariffs now down to even below what they were under the Biden administration. And so we haven't achieved any of those things. The IP theft is still going on. There's nothing in that deal like addresses that. The way that they treat like their labor issues and their environmental issues or any of the other issues that were supposed to be addressed with these tariffs. If we're going back to status quo anti-tariffs or even lower than status quo anti-tariffs without addressing any of those issues, then if you're going to say that Trump was right in the beginning to say we need these maybe even permanent tariffs in order to address this issue and get sort of China out of the game, then you can't like this new deal that was just announced, which takes us back to where we were before without any concessions.
Well, I don't. I mean, I think that Tiberius is right. Trump is not doing enough. He's. I agree with Tiberius.
Do we all agree here that Trump has done nothing?
No, he's done. He's very clearly
with China. Well, sorry, with China specifically.
In term 2, I will say yes.
Turn 2, yes. With the tariffs, he's gotten nothing.
Yeah, with turn or in a second.
I think it's
yes.
I mean, there's no concessions, right?
Well,
I mean, it's just we dropped the tariffs back down to 10%, and we're right back where we were before.
Well, hold on. You say
Exactly.
that. All right, okay,
Because a lot of traders like the fact that we're going back to
I know
that.
we're about to move on, but I do take a little bit of umbrage with that. All right, so this is the math. This is how this has gone down. I just had a whole fun debate on Monday about this. I got yelled at quite a bit and muted a whole lot. So we broke out the. I don't know where my fucking bullshit board is at the moment, so I can't do the visual with you. So all right, these are what they started at. We started at a 3% export tariff on China. They had an 8. We bumped it up to 135.
Wait, what do you mean started out?
So we had the tariffs directly between us and China, right? They on their side they had 8% on our goods, and we had
the
3%.
Trump tariffs.
Yeah, from back whenever the first term. Okay, his first term, right? And we had 3%. Then come along.
You mean pre-2017?
Yeah, okay, yes. So moving on, he comes up to we go all the way up now to 135 on our side, and they bumped it up to 125. After it's all said and done, going in, they're down to 10%, which is higher than their 8%. But we are now at 30%, according to this deal. That's a 27% increase over what we originally started with, and 20% higher than what they have now. That sounds like something and a significant hit to their trade. So when we argue he's done nothing, that is a pretty significant change from 3% to 8 to 10% to 30.
Yeah, but remember, it's actually 10 to 10. Plus the 20% fentanyl thing, right? So if they do whatever if they resolve the fentanyl thing, then it's back to 10-10.
Well, yeah, right, and that's where this debate comes down to. If he's done something, is it not enough? That's kind of what y'all are at versus, I guess, what
if they do something, it'll be
not enough.
Yeah.
It's like nothing at all. I don't know. I guess that's but moving on to the last one. Let's talk about Trump versus the drug companies and slashing drug prices. What do we think of this? Let's start with you, Grid, and then we'll go in a circle here.
I don't know that I have like a really strong. I mean, I don't know.
You can speed it up then.
I think I have an issue with drugs in the first place, man. Like I don't know. Are we talking about the fentanyl thing, or maybe I?
All right, moving on.
Rule ourselves to.
I'm sorry, I zoned out for a minute. I apologize.
Yeah.
What were you talking about? I can't actually hear
Trump.
Listen, it's Trump twice as much to say as I normally would, so it'll balance.
That's fine. Yeah, it's Trump versus. Yeah, I'll let you start us off, Ike out. It's Trump versus the.
I turned the volume up so I can hear.
I appreciate it. It's Trump versus the drug companies. Basically, he's saying that they're going to be restricted on their prices. I think the big thing is they're
Yes.
going to require them to sell to the U.S. public at the same price they would sell them to other countries. But I'll let Ika go into it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was listening to actually Steven Crowder on this the other day, and he said something that I thought was super interesting. So he talked about how in Europe they have much lower drug prices than we have here, and it's not fair because they used socialism to like get their prices down because they you couldn't use like the free market principles to get to whatever manufacturers could sort of naturally sell the prices for, because the government was able to come in and intervene and bring those prices low. And that he said it's taking advantage of the United States because we're the ones paying for all of the R&D because all the other companies are negotiating drug prices and we're not. All of that was factually true. Like what he was describing was factually true. But then his argument was, well, we shouldn't let them take advantage of our capitalist system because it's our capitalist system that's allowing all these drugs to exist in the first place because we're throwing so much money into it. And as a result, like we can't keep letting them get away with it. And without actually using the word, what he was basically saying is it's not fair that they get to use socialism and we don't. So let's get some socialism over here. And it seems to me that, yeah, in sort of a roundabout way, like I'm not sure about the details of the mechanisms in which it'll happen if it's going to work, because we can try to negotiate prices, or we could try to link prices in that way. But if they choose not to sell at that price point, there's not much we can do because he's linking us to the lowest price in the market, not the median price in the market, which is something that companies would be. In other words, that could result in shortages. That would be my main strategy. But if he adapted this to where we negotiated in ways that Medicaid and Medicare should have always been negotiating drug prices, then I wouldn't have many problems with it at all. Or even just importing like Canadian drugs. That was a plan that Trump at one point supported, and Biden later on supported it, and then Trump stopped supporting it. I don't know who supports it now, but it makes sense to me that we sort of leverage these negotiations that are happening in other countries by allowing goods to flow from those countries. Two things that are complicating that. Number one, a trade war with Canada is going to make that much more difficult to do. And number two, it would just mean that we're leveraging socialist policies in ways that allow us to just not use the language of it. But ultimately, what we're doing is wanting to get the benefits of the government negotiations that the EU and other countries were able to achieve.
Yes.
Yeah, I gotta throw out some level of I don't know. Medical is not my wheelhouse. Pharmaceuticals are not really my wheelhouse. The only thing I can relate to is chemicals, and I don't get this fucking advanced. When it comes to my own politics, right? I don't really care for the pharmaceutical industry as we're at large because it's corrupt as fuck. But I don't know how this particular piece of legislation / directive from executive order is supposed to work. Talking points wise, it's been what I've been hoping for a long time. It's just some American president's like, nah, we're not going to let you have a medical license to produce anything here if you're going to keep selling to the Europeans at fucking 1/10 the price. I don't know how he's trying to solve this problem, but he's getting at a problem that I very much have. So I can at least give him that. But is this going to work? I have no fucking idea. Not remotely any idea.
Not fun.
Yeah, it's going to take me 3 months to develop a full opinion on this, okay? But I'm reading about it now. So I have a lot of unanswered questions. So basically my position right now is I would lean probably like 60% against it, because I do believe that there is a lot of evidence that suggests that if you decrease the expected profits of pharmaceutical companies, you decrease the amount they spend on R&D. There's evidence from this, from the Medicare negotiations under Biden, from Medicare negotiations that like states have done. There seems to be a lot of evidence for that. My question then would be, how effectively can government subsidies offset the reduction in R&D? Like, there's a lot of more socialist-leaning people I talk to that just say we should just socialize most drug research and development. I intuitively feel like the government would be less efficient at that than the private market, but I don't know for sure. So I would say contingent. So contingent on subsidies being effective, I might support it. But I will say Trump is absolutely not going to do that. He seems to not like the NIH and funding medical research. So Trump doing it, I'm against. And price discrimination, just generally speaking, is not super bad. Like universities price discriminate a ton because they have very high fixed cost. And, if a student can't afford to pay the full sticker price at a college, they'll offer financial aid or reduce prices, because adding an additional student to the classroom just adds to profits a lot more than it adds to cost, because they're paying the professor anyway. They already paid to build the building. Adding an additional student has very low marginal cost. So it can make sense to price discriminate. And in the same way, it makes sense for pharmaceutical companies to price discriminate, to charge cheaper prices to Europe, charge cheaper prices to Africa than it does in the US, because our consumers are richer and pharmaceutical research has very high fixed cost.
Nina.
I think that when it comes to like what we're talking about, like lowering the price of pharmaceuticals, it sounds on its face like a good thing. I think we've kind of all covered that in a way. But like the way that they're gonna do it, it's like, oh, this murderer is gonna find a way to do something. Like it's like you kind of like raise an eyebrow there, like, oh well, this guy I clearly don't trust to be able to do this, and it does seem like the way that they're trying to do it is completely untenable. And it does like fuck up R&D. My sister is somebody who has done cancer research. She's dedicated her life to this. She's done cancer research for almost like 20 years. As much as it was like a joke when I got married recently, and we were like, we got to find somebody for her to get married to because she's spends too much time working. And these people are people who actually do a lot of work in this type of stuff. And I don't think that Trump's really trying to advocate for R&D like we're talking about, because that's what she's doing, right? Like there are some drugs like I guess I would say like insulin. I think that being at a certain price makes sense because it's a drug we know is what it is. It's not like a unique thing. Adderall, another one. It's not. But the thing is, what they're talking about is like just fucking R&D, which again just means like looking into new stuff, and that is not what we should be doing, because America is a gigantic beacon for finding new drugs that help with all types of things, and novel, I guess you would say, things. And it doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense the way he's trying to go about it.
All right, Grid. You got thoughts now?
Yeah, I got you, man. I apologize. I zoned out, and but I actually had a conversation with with a good friend of mine the other day about this, because he considers this the worst form of price fixing, and whereas I'm actually kind of all for it. I have been on kind of both sides of the drug sale kind of deal, where I have a friend of mine. I worked for a brief time with a friend of mine who in California, they develop some drugs, I guess, for, I don't even know what they were for, to be honest. I just helped out, but it was expensive. I mean, it really was. And and a lot of those companies have gone out. A lot of the smaller companies have gone out of business. So on one side, I can see the argument against this kind of price evening, but I don't understand why the American people bear the brunt of the cost. I don't think Crowder was accurate with the idea that the socialist networks in other countries buy. I don't know if I don't know how accurate that claim that Crowder made. I didn't see that. I'm going to have to go look for that. My guess is that they make a lot of money off of us, and our regulatory agencies often add additional prices that obviously the people making the drugs are not going to absorb, right? Like they're just going to pass that on as non-fon says, to the consumer, and you're just not going to ever lower it. And again, my friend was like, "This is the worst form of price fixing. I can't believe Trump said this." And actually, his biggest claim was this is the kind of thing that Bernie Sanders was a big advocate for. And so, Trump, and Trump's gaining all of this criticism for something that Bernie Sanders would have been praised for. So I think that's very odd. Beyond that, I honestly don't have I'm kind of with Tiberius. I don't really have a huge feeling about this. I don't know that at some point I'm going to care because I'm going to need drugs. But, beyond that, I don't.
I don't think you understand what you're talking.
Yeah, I just
I
wanted
will
to
say it feels like. Oh, sorry.
So I just want to respond quickly to the idea of that we need all of this money for R&D, and we do. But what I don't understand is we don't need to be the only country in the world paying for this R&D when everyone else is negotiating prices.
I agree with you.
I think that's part of the issue here. I think that this deal sort of started a conversation that's worth having. I don't know if I want to go all the way Bernie Sanders about it or not. But I do think that there's got to be some happy medium in here, whether the world figures out how to kick in enough of a fair price to where America can sort of get closer to equalizing. I understand, we generate a lot of income in the United States, but the EU does too. And I don't think the prices that we're paying for drugs are proportionate to our national income in that way.
Yeah, I think the WHO used to contribute to it quite a bit. And again, Trump pulling out of that was fucking catastrophe levels of losing our R&D capabilities, because I do believe they used to contribute quite a bit.
So I think we did an experiment in this country with regards to this, because we used to have a question over the obscene amount of profits that the insurance companies would make. And so what happened was, under the ACA, they made a new rule that said insurance companies who want to participate in the ACA have to limit their net profits. And gross profits. They have to have no more than 20% gross profit. Anything they make above that, they have to issue in refunds on their premiums to their customers. That way, they ensured that they could charge the prices they needed to charge in order to make a profit and not go out of business, but also not make obscene amounts of profit. And so I think you could do something like that with pharmaceutical industries as well, to show that, yeah, you can get your fair share. You get a great runaway drug, you can get a solid 20% gross profit, right? But to turn that into a 300% gross profit or something, maybe that is something that needs to end.
You all are way nicer to these people than I am.
Right.
Let's go to non-fawn real quick, because I have a feeling non-fawn is about to discover economic conservatism. Go ahead, non-fawn.
Well, that's kind of what I'm going to touch on. Is you guys say Trump is getting flack for an idea that Bernie would have done, and to an extent, I'm sure that is happening. But there are also people like my goat, Nicholas Decker, who, when Biden did this, wrote an article explaining why he thought it was bad, and likewise is saying, obviously, Trump doing this is bad now. And the opposite side of that for you, though, is it feels like if Bernie did go through with that, a lot of conservatives would be freaking the fuck out about it and saying this is communism, this is price controls, this is what the Soviet Union did, blah, 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 blah,
That
blah.
was the exact
and would
discussion I was
be tearing it down. But because Trump does it, it doesn't feel like you guys are upset about it. And I will also add, America doesn't, just charge or pay more for drugs because we subsidize R&D. To an extent, that's true. But America also, so number one, as a result of that, we get newer drugs. We get drugs faster than other countries. But we also get higher quality drugs, and we also just consume more drugs per capita than any other country. So there are benefits.
That's a problem.
Yeah, that's not a plus.
I got to get in this.
Go ahead.
I've got to take this for a minute. Okay. Y'all are way nicer to the pharmaceutical companies than I could ever get on, and he just hit the number one reason. We are hyper fucking medicated. 66% of adults are on some form of medication, and if anyone doesn't have warning bells screaming when they hear that, I think I have a problem with you. This is one of the most politically ingrained, I want to say corrupt, because there's some pretty good indications they have bribed people in the FDA, but there's We got to find out if that actually is true or not yet. Still, there is like they advertise everywhere to people who have no idea what they're consuming, and then on top of that, just the vast majority of literally a majority of people are on this shit, right? I think they're too big. I think they need to be reined in. I have no problem. I don't like price fixing. I will hit that. But I have no problem with reining these folks in, and I would put it up to straight up extortion. But it would be, hey, look, whatever deal that you can get with us, we'll pay out a normalized price. But if you pay, or if you make a deal with any other government that you will sell them for cheaper, we will revoke your corporate charter and you can fuck off. Like, that is the deal I want with these folks.
I mean, that just brings me back to my point, which is like price fixing, not price fixing, price discrimination makes sense a lot of times. Not only does it increase profits for companies, but it can also increase social welfare. I mean, look. So again,
this is literally just GDP go up, and like there's levels where I think we pay incredible social. No, hold on. Let me finish. Like, I think we pay an incredible social cost in the medications we throw out. Like, I'm gonna be real, dude. Like this. The opioid epidemic.
Let me elaborate. Let's
let Non-Funk finish here. Hold on. Let Non-Funk finish here. No, Grid wants to get a meeting. You go after that as well. Go ahead.
So pharmaceutical companies have very high, like incredibly high fixed costs to develop new drugs, bring that drug to market, and for every one drug they bring to market, like 5 other drugs fail. So they have to recoup that R&D cost, but also they have very low marginal costs. Usually, most drugs once the formula is developed, they're very cheap to give out. So I would say clearly a society where pharmaceutical companies are allowed to price discriminate, where they charge very low prices right above marginal cost in Africa. They still get profit from those drugs based on marginal cost. And people in Africa obviously get access to drugs they wouldn't otherwise be able to get. But in America, they price discriminate and charge more because we can afford it. They're able to recoup their R&D cost, and they are able to start use that money to develop new drugs, which benefit America and again Africa. I mean, again, it's the same reason why universities price discriminate. No one seems to have an issue with universities doing price discrimination. I don't see why it's a huge deal that pharmaceutical companies price discriminate, other than I would agree with you, Europe probably does need to spend more on drugs because it does feel like they're free riding a little bit.
I agree. Then Nina, go ahead.
Okay. So first, I agree with Tiberius again. It's very interesting, but worse. I have to disagree with Non-Fon. I'll take a couple of small issues here. First, we don't always get the newest drugs because our FDA drags its fucking feet with approval. And a lot of drugs that are made here cannot be sold to Americans, are shipped overseas or down to Mexico, where Americans then go to buy the drugs that they can't buy here. There's a very famous.
I mean, you're a little unrelated.
How is it unrelated?
If you're talking
okay,
about
exactly. Shut the fuck up.
That already exist in Mexico, then it seems completely unrelated to R&D in America.
How is it not related that we can't get?
Because we're not talking about R&D.
How?
No, because you're not talking about new drugs. You're not talking about R&D. You're talking about drug trafficking.
No, I'm not.
Okay, well then
go back to sleep. It's okay. The adults will talk. So when Procter and Gamble develops a new drug, and they want to sell it on the American market, they can't oftentimes, especially not in any kind of hurry, because of the FDA. It will not get approval. It takes a long time, unless, as Tiberius said, maybe there's a little bribery involved. I'm not saying it is, but could happen. However, in Europe, those drugs are perfectly legal, and they will buy them. And then Americans go to there to buy them and come back here. And actually, I have a friend of mine a few years ago had to go to Germany for a procedure and medication that he couldn't get here. That's made literally not down the road, but not too far from his house. I mean, this is insanity on the grand scale. And this is one of the reasons why Americans pay such high drug costs in the first place, because we are often our own worst enemies. And I'm not actually supporting the idea that Bernie Sanders' method is right. I'm saying that Trump is doing something that matter of fact, I don't think Trump is correct for doing the price fixing angle. I think that the discussion, as iCal said, needs to be had about these drug prices and about how how our entire drug industry works. And I think that if this is what it takes to start that conversation, then I don't like it, but it is what it is. And if Bernie Sanders were doing this, nobody'd have a problem with it except the right. You're right. We would all be freaking out. But we would do what conservatives do when they get mad. They have they tailgate and drink beer, apparently. So because we don't riot in the streets and burn things down. So, but at any rate, I think this is great. So.
Let's go to Nina. She was next. Go ahead, and then we'll open it back up. Go ahead, Nina.
That was fucking wild. It's so obvious you have no fucking clue what you're talking about. I don't even know why you're part of this conversation.
I don't know why you're part of it. You're drunk.
Huh?
You seem drunk. You seem out of it. Are you okay?
Let's start a little decorum, guys. Come on. Let's back it up.
Oh my God.
Focus.
Well, at least even if I am, I clearly am paying attention with the conversation because we're talking about healthcare here, my guy. Like, what are you on about with all this bullshit? Like, okay, sorry, let's refocus. What was the initial question so we can refocus?
The Trump versus the drug prices. He's
right.
slashing.
Yeah, I'm the one out of focus here.
Is he? Well, then I asked to figure out where the focus was. I don't know why you think that's a bad thing to ask to where the refocus was, but okay. But anyways, let's move on. So yeah, no, I think that it is wildly misguided the way that he's trying to go about it. It doesn't seem like I feel like I'm repeating myself a bit, but like I just don't really think that he has any idea how to actually get anything done. Like at least you can say, as much as you can disagree with this, Biden did get some drug prices like insulin down to a reasonable level and you know why? Because it didn't actually affect R&D. It is a drug that was for a very long time in service. So it wasn't like a novel drug. It was a drug that we absolutely could pay that much for it to be that price, right? I mean, like, would you disagree with that, my guy?
Rob. Oh yeah,
sorry, my main detractor.
Grid, did you disagree with that?
You're asking me? Yeah, I disagree with almost
Correct.
everything you said. I don't think that you're on topic at all, but that's okay. Continue.
You really think that you don't think that we could have that we should have capped the price of insulin?
Didn't Trump do that?
Kind of. Trump had like a voluntary price cap under.
No, what happened was
Medicare. Biden expanded it. Biden made it like involuntary and
regardless, I'm not being a campus piece of shit like you are. I'm asking you. Do you think we should have done that?
Should we have forced companies to lower their prices? I don't know about forcing them to.
Correct.
I certainly believe that the way Trump did it.
Do you think that we should not have capped the price of insulin?
Did we actually cap it?
The $30.
Basically, yeah.
Basically, yeah. Okay. No, I don't know that. I don't know because I'm not.
Okay, stop like being a fucking dipshit about this.
I'm not being a dipshit. Listen. I've had enough of this. You are not even in the damn conversation. We're talking about the cost of R&D for drugs, and I literally told you that the reason that we pay more for drugs has less to do with R&D. And the fact that
answer my fucking question, you dipshit, motherfucker! Should we or should we have not done that?
Everybody calm down. Let's go to non-pod.
No, I'm totally done with the yelling. I'm just asking, can we get an answer out of him?
Okay.
My answer is that you have not given me anything to answer.
You have no answer. He has no answer. Okay, we can move on.
All right, cool. Non-pod. Go to and then we're gonna go to iCal because I had
small dick bitch.
All right, all right.
I was just gonna say my understanding is I think the insulin price cap Biden did was an executive order that did actually cap the price of insulin that you were able to charge consumers. or that they were able to charge Medicaid. And then
I
the
think
Inflation
you're right
Reduction
about
Act
that.
allowed negotiation of like 10
Mhm.
drug prices down a year or whatever. But I would say the negotiation under the Inflation Reduction Act is under some level of coercion, because if they didn't accept the price the government wanted, the government would charge like a 95% tax on all
Right.
the revenue made from that drug, not the profit made from that drug, just the revenue. So obviously companies are going to accept basically any price the government asks for in that situation. But I don't know. That still could have been good. It would depend on the effects in R&D, which I don't know.
I mean, there's
Well, I
no
think
R
there's
and D on.
no really R&D on that particular drug, I guess is what my argument would be. And that's fair. We
Well, yeah, but
can
part
have
of
a
it is
conversation
also
related to
you,
that.
you know,
Uh-huh.
you're reducing the expected profits of basically all future drugs if you enable Medicare and Medicaid to negotiate down the prices of all the future drugs they develop, so they're going to be less willing to fund things. And there is evidence that it does reduce R&D, but I guess
Are you talking about government
like
funding or
I'm talking about
Sure.
like private funding. So this is what I brought up, this is what I'm still uncertain on, is how effectively
Okay.
can the government maybe offset any private reduction in R&D with public
Gotcha.
funding in R&D. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know the
yeah.
answer to that right now.
So-
So if it was the case that the government is really effective at pharmaceutical R&D, then I'm probably in favor of price caps. If it isn't the case, then I'm probably not in favor of them.
So
Yeah, no, I mean, I think like with the offset of like specific things like insulin or whatever, like I feel like that's
Yeah.
something that would you agree with me that like the government should, figure out, I don't know if I'm repeating exactly what you just said, but like to offset the R&D that would be within their whatever the companies would
Yeah.
determine,
Probably.
to make it like a very reasonable price, like I don't know, like what, $30 or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think that'd be fair. But I will just say,
Okay, I'd
the
agree
reason
with
I'm
you
in
on that
favor of
then.
is because essentially what you're doing there is you're shifting the burden of R&D from private pharmaceutical companies to the government. In other words, you're like
That's
socializing
fine
the
though,
cost of
right?
R&D. And no. So I am 100% in favor of socializing the cost of R&D.
Sure,
I
sure,
don't think
yeah.
people, but I feel like
No, I
conservatives
100% agree
generally
with you.
would
Yeah,
be
so-
against socializing R&D costs, and I would like. I would
Can
like
we
to
move
point
into
that out.
having that
Yeah.
conversation?
Let-
Because
let-
I actually really am curious about that, because
We-
I
we
think that's. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Stephen.
yeah. I was gonna say I want to hear it from Ical here. I know he's been like seriously writing things down here. I know
I've
he's
been
got
writing
notes.
some things down.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
so I
So I was
see him in the
thinking about-
background. So let's go to him real quick, and then we can
I
open
was
back
just
up.
thinking about how anything really big that's happened under any president that I can, at least in my lifetime, the things that they accomplished were things that were the opposite of what you would expect from that party. Why? Because it means that you can increase your chances of getting cooperation from the opposite party, and you know that you can also bring some people from your own party along in that direction
What do you
too.
mean?
So, like for George W. Bush, he got PEPFAR done, which was like $1 billion a year to Africa, like for AIDS priorities, something the Republicans like never would have supported if the Democrat had tried to do it, but because it was their own president that did it, they supported it. Medicare Part D was another one that happened under Bush. Clinton was able to balance the budget using those talking about certain methods that would not have been accepted by his own party, except for the fact that he was the Democrat and he was the one suggesting it. Reagan signed the Earned Income Tax Credit, which the Republicans never would have done. I don't think. He saved Social Security. He signed the Montreal Protocol. There's so much environmental disaster happening around the world, we forget that we've had successes sometimes, and one of them was acid rain. Not a thing anymore because Reagan signed the Montreal Protocol. This is another one of those opportunities, I think, where you have a president who's making a suggestion that his party would absolutely reject if a Democrat supported it, but because he's supporting it, if Democrats were to come back to him with and maybe adjust it to where it's maybe a little bit less risky than the way it is now, there's an opportunity here for something actually big to get done. I just don't know that it will because of the way the parties are interacting with each other in Congress now. It's more toxic environment now than under any of those presidents that I mentioned before.
Grid, go ahead, and then we can go back to what the question was that Nina was wanting to examine.
Yeah. So
Zach.
on the R&D thing, something that's really interesting is that the R&D is obviously done here, but the manufacturing is done in India or China or various other places. And so that's one of the reasons why these other countries also get the drugs even before us, or at a lower cost, or whatever. So I don't know how much the R&D is necessarily affected, or the R&D cost is necessarily affected uh, by what we're talking, by the little bit of price fixing or whatever we want to call it we can do here. But it's interesting to find out, and private equity is huge into drug manufacturing, like massive.
How
It's
so?
crazy, and so it's interesting that Trump is kind of pushing back. I mean, he's a PE guy. It's interesting that he's taking this stance, in my opinion. I could be totally off base on it, because who knows? He may just want to piss them all off. I don't know. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting to note that the manufacturing is not here, so the R&D costs are burdened here to some degree.
I mean, I sent a source in the chat that shows the U.S. is, generally speaking, an early adopter of drugs. It seems like other countries get drugs later. I think you're just basically wrong on that. And like we do have studies that there are kind of some conflicting things that find that like Medicare price reductions do decrease the amount of R&D spending, do decrease the amount of patents being filed, do decrease the amount of new products introduced. So I think you're basically just wrong on that as well. There's a little bit of nuance into what type of research and development specifically gets, basically gets cut back on. Like I have a post-Keynesian friend who like sent me a study saying, hey, it looks like really the, actual novel medical R&D seems to still continue even with price caps. It's just the sort of like follow through technology, I think it's called, like improvements to other drugs or whatever, that sometimes is cut back on. And that's not necessarily as bad. That could be, basically a positive trade-off for reducing costs in exchange for not a huge effect on new medical innovation.
Nina, what you were talking, Nina, just before we kind of tangent off there. What were you wanting to refocus the conversation on?
Oh, I've completely lost. I was just listening to the conversation there because I know when I don't know what we're talking about. So I'll go ahead and let you take over the reins here, and then maybe I'll jump back in when we can.
All right, sounds good. Tiberius, any thoughts here? I know you've been silent a while here.
Well, I'm probably just the most anti-pharmaceutical out here. He's going to be like, hey, we're going to stifle innovation, we're going to stifle research if we do certain things. And while I will agree that certain things I don't want to do price floors, there's other things that if they happened, I would not cry a bit about. He's going to be like, hey, we're not doing more research. True. But we're also not seeing pharmaceutical companies drop as many checks in Washington. And for me, that's probably more of a win to the American people than anything. So that's my general goal, is that the pharmaceutical companies are not immoral or unethical, but they're actually just too powerful, and I want them reined in.
I mean, I would view it as more like a general issue, not just the pharmaceutical companies. I'd want to end lobbying in like every industry, not just hurt pharmaceutical companies.
I'm not a utopian.
So they have less money to lobby. But I mean,
Are you talking about this 2017
holistic approach?
You need a constitutional convention for that one. Lobbying is literally in the First Amendment.
Yeah.
Well,
are you
you have a right to petition your government.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rich.
Non-Fawn, are you talking about this 2017 study? Is that what you put back there?
I would assume they have not changed since 2017, but this could be. No, this is from 2020.
It says it's still not the healthcare 2017 edition, is what you posted. Did you think you posted something different?
I guess it's published in 2020, but it says 2017 edition. Sure. Okay. I mean, I would assume the results have not changed majorly since 2020.
I still don't see where it's.
You don't actually have any. You don't have any evidence. You just have.
Well, I'm just saying that I didn't see anything in here about that the U.S. gets drugs first.
I mean,
Where
I
does it say
quoted
that?
it. It says right here, "Well, drug prices explain relatively little for the U.S. It's quite evident the U.S. adopts new drugs much sooner and much more intensely. These differences are particularly
Mhm.
stark
Once
when
they're
we compare
approved.
the United States to developing countries
You're
and the
missing
rare
an
high-income
important
countries known to
statement
exist."
there. Once they're approved.
Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, they don't. I
Yeah,
mean,
it doesn't say
I
that.
might. I've not read
I
into.
understand. It's okay.
This is taking into account the approval process. Like this is just
I
saying,
don't.
as a matter of fact, it is true the U.S. gets new drugs sooner. Now, maybe we get them even faster if if the FDA approved them sooner. I don't know that much
Sure.
about the FDA process. Maybe it's too hard. But as a matter of fact, clearly, one factor is outweighing the other here, and that the FDA is not dragging us down far enough to not get new drugs sooner than other countries, holistically, on average.
And that's its own issue, right? Because the do no harm thing in the Hippocratic Oath means that the perception out there is that you can't harm like one person in order to heal 10 people because you can't do any harm. But if you were to change that to a more utilitarian perspective, you could then approve drugs that say this is going to help more people than it hurts, and therefore you can have legislation like the right to try legislation that they've tried to pass. If you actually, I think they did pass. Was for some drugs, you can people can bypass some of those rules, especially if they're very close to death. If there's a new drug that comes out, they have a right to try it. If you want to broaden that so that these approvals happen faster, I think you're going to have trouble. You're going to have trouble with, say, the anti-vaxxers, right? Who will say approval happened way too fast and way too easily when it came to the vaccines, right? So
There's always a middle
there's
ground.
always going to be someone who's not happy with the speed at which the FDA approves things in one direction or another. Too fast, too slow.
All right, perfect. Well, this is a good time as any here. Let's get some outros here. We've covered a lot of topics today. I'd love to give thanks to my fill-in people for coming in so last minute and being so wonderful to do that. And thanks to my regular people as well for being here as always. Appreciate that. It helps me, allows me to be able to have panels weekly, all the races. I don't know how some of these guys plan shit every day and don't have like a consistent group of people that like they know will come. Crazy stuff. But all right, let's get some closing. Talk about whatever you got. Promote yourself. We'll start with you, Grid, and we'll just make our way around here. Tell us what you do, where you're at, and what you got going on, and all that good stuff.
I was going to go to sleep, but I got drugged back up here. So you can find me at An Unreasonable Man on YouTube. I don't know what my Twitch handle is. It's out there somewhere. I don't actually stream to Twitch very often. That's about it.
Thank you so much. Cal.
Yeah, debate coach out of Texas. Always fun to go on these panels. This is actually the last week I've got summer break now, so I'll be available a little bit more for some of this stuff over the summer. I especially enjoyed this last topic because it caused everyone to hit their role reversals. It's really great to see conservatives proposing socialism and people on the left discovering free market principles. Great.
Yeah, after I read out, if you want to talk about that some, I found that a lot of this very interesting to myself. The role reversals. We can talk off stream about that if you want. Nina, go ahead.
Of course, it's great to see you, Iko. It's been a while. You look great. I feel like you are kind of aging backwards somehow.
Benjamin Button situation going on.
Yeah, a little bit of that, but it's great to see all of you guys. Thank you
Maybe
for
you're just
having
getting
me.
older, and the relative the
I
ratio.
did get married, so maybe it makes me older. I don't know if that's how that works, but
wiser.
we get yeah, it's great to see all of you, of course. Thank you for having me. Twitch.tv/Nina. I think that these conversations are a lot of fun to have. I have enjoyed being on your panels. Gibbs, I don't know if this is a new thing for you, but I don't know if you haven't been inviting me earlier, but I've been really enjoying having these conversations. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, I always like when you're a part of it, so I'm big
Gibbs,
fan.
I'm sorry. She just reminded me of something. I actually do a debate game show on the weekends where you can win money. It's a blood sport debate, 5-minute rounds. Non-fun. Have you been up yet?
Well, you didn't remember what
you were. Yeah, you were.
Twitch
Yeah, you were there.
was.
You did pretty well, didn't you?
He's on YouTube mainly.
Yeah, you
got Reasonable Man.
And Unreasonable Man. And it's Saturday night. We start at 8 o'clock. We go till there's one person left.
The Unreasonable Man or A
And
Unreasonable?
Unreasonable Man. And
A-N.
5-minute blood sport debates. You get 1 minute to open each person, and then 5 minutes to make your points, and then you're judged by.
Love that you needed to talk over me for that one. Go ahead.
Go. Yeah, Nita, go ahead and finish your thing. By the way, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought she was
Anyway.
first. I apologize. Sorry.
Anyway, Nita, go ahead. Finish out. Do you have any more you want to say?
No, I was totally done. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, non-fun. Go ahead.
I do a lot of debates like this. I appreciate these types of conversations. You can go watch all of them on my YouTube channel, Nonfon, Nonfon, and I stream them live to YouTube as well as Twitch and Kick and Twitter, I guess, at Nonfon420. Listen, price caps are just typically pretty bad. The healthcare industry is uncompetitive, so it makes sense why they might be more appropriate in the healthcare industry, but they seem to be cringe. That's the last thing I'll say.
All right. Thank you so much. He's regular here. We love him, even though he's wrong about everything. I think that one day he's going to become an economic conservative. He's going to be. You're going to be the Kimbo Slice of Twitch poll. It's going to be. That's what's going to happen. You're going to go from
Being conservative does not, being a fiscally aware does not make you conservative, my guy.
We'll see. We'll see. It's my prediction here. All right, Tiberius here.
Is there that much difference between a neolib and a neocon anyway? I didn't think there was, but all right.
Absolutely.
Y'all
There's a
can
lot
have
of
that fucking.
difference.
You can have that argument.
No
All
wonder
right.
you're confused, Tiberius. No
What are you,
wonder.
a Hassan fan?
Hey, look, if it makes you feel any better, I just think you're all retarded. All right.
That's fair.
That's all it
That's
comes
Yeah,
down
we
to.
all
probably are. We probably are. Yeah.
All right. No. Yeah, I'm supposed to be a retired Twitch streamer. I have been asked to come back, and y'all made me feel real warm and welcome. I'm definitely regretting my life choices tonight. Anyway, I don't know if I'm going to stick with this at all. It's fun to talk politics, but sometimes it's a real doozy. To sum up tonight's events and topics, it's fuck the Russians, fuck China, and fuck Big Pharma. So yeah, I hate to leave on a sour note, but that's where we're at.
We got positive note.
Yeah, absolutely positive note here. Yeah, this was quite the event, Gibbs. But it's interesting to see the man up to the night is Gibbs. Gibbs being a solid moderator. I've got to give him credit for this. I didn't see this coming.
Yeah, I try. I go on these panel shows, and this isn't a bad show to anybody, but I hate when you go on there and it's like suddenly you're facing the moderator as a debater too.
All of them.
But also at the same time, people don't understand how hard it is. You'll get a panel and suddenly you'll have a person drop, and it's okay, you need someone to fill in, so you have to kind of be that guy, but then people it's rigged, you're collusion, and you're so it's this happy medium you have to walk. I don't know.
I used to have a
appreciate it.
panel show. I totally feel for you, dude. It's a complete pain in the fucking balls. I don't know why you suffer through it, but you do, and so thanks for having me on.
We love you for that.
Hey,
of course.
listening to Gibbs tell people that they need to have decorum is an out-of-body experience. Let me tell you.
He's
I
having to put
know.
a suit on. Basically.
Yeah, I'm calm down, boys, calm down. Yeah, it's that's the point. When I'm not when I'm not moderating, I don't have to be good.
He's on his best behavior.
Yeah, that's the secret. But all right, we're gonna rate out to Modi here because guess what? I'm gonna be on his dating show tomorrow.
Oh, that's the name.
With Flute and Dude. It's gonna be fun times. As always. So y'all be good. Thank y'all all for coming. It was very fun. I appreciate it.
Night, Gibbs.
We'll
Y'all
see
be
you
good.
again.
All right,
Take
thank
care.
you, thank you. Great
Thanks
to
so
see
much
all
for
of you.
Thanks again for filling in. I always need people when I have
Of
it. So thank you all so much.
course.
See you guys.
Wow. I thought I was going to get a rage quit, gentlemen. I was this close. Maybe this close. Thought she was going to rage quit. She got up. I thought she was gone. And she came back. Ladies and gentlemen, that was brutal. I agree with you, Anson Knowles. Holy shit. Jesus. Especially the drunker she gets, the more she's like, what are we talking about? Wait, what? What are we talking about? Holy shit! Holy fuck! Oh man, that was great. That was just great. She can make really solid debate points, and for a parent alkie, she can hold a line of reasoning pretty well. But she's just absolutely bad faith all the time. So, yeah, absolutely bad faith. Guys, apparently YouTube's jacking around with my channel. It's maybe like some kind of soft something or the other. I had Arctic Timberwolf in earlier saying that he could not, that some of his posts were getting moderated, not by moderators. Nobody was moderating him. And maybe some word usage or something. So, not really sure what's going on with that. I don't even monetize these videos at all until after the show is done, because oftentimes I'll just shut it down. I just don't even monetize them because I know they're not going to get the views, and it's more trouble than it's worth. But Non-Fon bringing out a 2017 study that didn't even show what he wanted to show. It was like, what the fuck, man? It's just weird. Like, obviously, where the drugs go where don't need to be approved. What the fuck? It has been a tough day, but I felt better about this one, to be honest with you. I actually felt like I did really well. I almost got the rage quit. That would have made me feel like 110% better if I'd been able to get that rage quit. I wasn't able to get the rage quit. I'm sorry, guys. I tried, but and I thought, we were right there, guys. We were right there. But then she came back. And she got up. She was angry. She was yelling. She got up, and then she sat back down. It's rough. It's rough. But hey, some days you win, some days you lose. I did both today. Tiberius was on it, man. I got to be honest with you. That dude was on it. He had it down by the numbers. I didn't really have anything to go over, to kind of go back at him about. Non-Fon, actually, I was actually shocked at how Non-Fon was not really hammering it out. So, too drunk to remember she was mad. That's probably true. So, there's that. And yeah, God, man, what an adventure, guys. What an adventure. I didn't know she was going to be on there, by the way. By the way, guys, I didn't do that on purpose. I didn't know. But I came in, I'd already lost one debate today, and I was kind of sore about that. And, I wasn't really super happy. Wasn't feeling particularly generous at all. So I came in kind of wanting to fuck them up. And, yeah, it really, and I did actually. I did fuck them up a little bit. And started out with "we're the biggest dick" or "biggest wang," whatever the fuck I said. Started there and didn't get any better, if you know what I mean. But I had a lot of fun, guys. I hope you guys have had fun today. I have been on the I've been on all day today, actually. So I'm gonna raid you guys out to Rob Noor because he's cool, and so have a good time over there. I may drop in, see if he'll push me up on deck, and we'll see. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, it's great to see you. Tomorrow night, Friday night, I've got Buckaroo Banzai or Buckaroo Banshee. It's gonna be lit. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be a great discussion with a leftist, and I think we're really gonna have a lot of fun. In the meantime, You guys have a great rest of your night. Please be cool. Wear glasses if you need them, and be careful as you exit the lawn for the third time today.